A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to get another session on how technology can transfer our practice areas in internal audit. Today is a great day. We have three very revered speakers. Mr. Anand Prakash Jangid, who comes from Bangalore, would address us in the first session. Then we have Mr. Rajiv Gupta. And now I request Mr. Paramjot to start the proceedings with introducing Mr. Anand Prakash, and then we can take ahead the entire session. Over to Mr. Paramjot.
Thank you, Nanda sir. Good evening, everyone present in the session from India. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone who has joined us from abroad. Well, as Nanda has said, that we are here to discuss how technology will be another enabler in internal audits. 10 months ago, Nandaji started as chairman of the Internal Audit Standard Boards. He started this series which he called Technology as Enablers. We all know that technology has been growing very exponentially, but our learning is growing at a snail's pace. However, all those who are present here, they are present here because they want to learn and they want to grow in a better pace, and they want to know how they can make better use of technology in the internal audit boards. And I'm sure that the speakers we have today, as always, will not disappoint, and everyone present here will be leaving enlightened. So when the journey started with Nandaji, I'll state it in his words the way he does it in the manner of a couplet. He says, मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिब मंजिल, मैं अकेला ही चला था जानिब मंजिल, मगर लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बनता गया. Which means that I started alone on my journey to my destination, but people joined me and it became a caravan. So we have today with us the first speaker, Mr. C. Anand Prakash Jangid from Bangalore. He is a passionate evangelist for tech-based disruption in audit and finance domain. Anandji is professionally a chartered accountant and a certified information systems auditor. He is a managing partner at ICAI, an organization with core area focus in forensic audit, IS, fraud analytics, and blockchain for internal audit function. Anandji was part of risk management team at Goldman Sachs, covering multiple audits across much geography for different functions in the organization. His areas of specialization were forex, audit, DP audits, anti-money laundering, Basel II, BCP, and operational risk. Prior to Goldman Sachs, he was with ES Consulting Group at Infosys Technologies Limited, Bangalore. Here he was involved in the development of regulatory compliance framework for various compliances like Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and was part of team developing solution for Basel II Accord implementation. His responsibilities included work in sync with project of Infosys Consulting Dallas. He has been involved in enterprise risk management, implementation, and IT audit for many international projects at USA, UK, Japan, China, etc. Apart from his work, he has other interests. He is a visiting faculty for IIM Bangalore, teaching IS audit and fraud analytics. He is a speaker at North America CACS and Euro CACS of Osaka. He is a visiting faculty at Osaka, ICAI, and Wellington Institute of Management. And I would like to add here that I've been honored to study the forensic, also as a speaker in forensic auditing batch that I've studied from you, and it was a great experience. So, but before we proceed with your session, sir, I would like to give a formal introduction to Nandaji, and then he can give a keynote address, and then we set the tone of the session. I know Nandaji needs no introduction. His work is already speaks for himself. 15 years as a Central Council member of the ICAI, he has devoted his entire life for the profession, and 6 years as a member of NIRC also. Right now, he's the chairman of Internal Audit Standards Board of ICAI. He's also the chairman of Committee of Management Accounting of ICAI, vice chairman in CP Committee of ICAI, and he's also on board of other 26 committees of the ICAI. So huge responsibilities going on at this point of time also. Still, he finds time for giving seminars and webinars all across the country. We are very thankful to you, sir. So, Nandaji, I would like you to begin with a keynote address, and then we can start this session of today on technology.
Thank you, Paramjot. I am equally excited to see and listen to Mr. Anand Prakash Jangid. Let me very candidly accept that both myself and Paramjot have been your students in FAFD class, where you taught us certain strategies how to come back and see that frauds and forensic is brought to book. So give me a second so that I'm able to put my PPT and we could start the PowerPoint presentation. Just for a second, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, we start the keynote now. In fact, I'm truly honored to speak before distinguished participants like you all, my friend Mr. Anand Jangid, my younger brother Paramjot, Madam Aarti. The first topic is FAT, the buzzword in internal audit. What is FAT essentially? FAT is fairness, accountability, and transparency in audit. First, we'll discuss the basic principles of internal audit. When you discuss the basic principle of internal audit as it is defined in internal audit standards, it is internal audit provides independent assurance on the effectiveness of internal controls coupled with risk management processes, and the purpose is to enhance governance and achieve organizational objectives. Internal audit essentially is a management function, and we assist the top management, may it be the board or the audit committee, to achieve their organizational objectives. Now, what is the topic all about? Fairness. What is fairness? The internal auditor should always be seen in a high professional atmosphere and has to be fair in all his dealings. Second is accountability. Yes, the internal auditor is accountable to deliver the outcome of his work to the appointing authority or those who are charged with governance. The laws and regulations, if they require, the internal auditor may also be required to report directly to external authorities, which has been started of late. Along with accountability comes the authority and powers required to conduct audits without any undue hindrances and to achieve and to receive all information and system access on time. The internal auditor may be held accountable for certain deliverables beyond providing basic assurance, such as improving the control environment, which is a very essential duty assigned to him. He has to draw the weaknesses of internal control and ensure that the control environment is improved. It needs to reduce the risk of rating or improving compliance level, etc. And there should all these things need to be clearly specified and be a part of the scope. Transparency, the third facet of FAT. External auditors and other stakeholders of the internal audit function relies on the work of internal auditor. Therefore, his level of reporting transparency is of paramount importance into the entire process. Let me very candidly put across that it is the transparency, the fairness and accountability of an internal audit which rolls into creating a infrastructure wherein the reporting propositions are viewed by the management, by the top management, and more importantly, the issues related to control weaknesses and risk are brought before the management. The second topic of the day to be taken by Mr. Bajoria is adoption of technology in auditing and accounting. We want our young chartered accountants, the Mofusils place working chartered accountants, the small and medium practitioners to embrace technology. How do you do that? How does technology transform business and internal audit? You understand that all business leaders today are using innovation and emerging technologies to transform their business and gain competitive edge. Technology will put us as a perilous when we start doing things which are more paramount to the success of the business. Internal audit is also focusing on integrated innovation-based roles and changing the way they operate from traditional to more agile models. More robust, more agile models are call of the day, and we have to take it. And third and the last is the internal auditors are embracing the use of data-driven auditing and enabling digital technologies to boost the value they offer to the business. Data analysis, artificial intelligence, blockchains, and more importantly, exception reporting is bringing on the board, on the table, what desired reporting is required by the management. What are the challenges in it? First, the challenges are that the auditor has to keep pace with the technological advances which happen practically in 48 hours. There is also a risk of data loss or cyber security. Cyber security has become a big area, and let me tell you, there are so many chartered accountants who always involve themselves in securities, cyber securities. And you need to adapt yourself to new technologies and tools so that you are able to effectively move ahead. And you need to approach that to transform the way they operate. So you have to have a bird's eye view of what IT changes are being brought in, how they need to be improved and updated, and how they are able to bring the best of the results. The third and the last topic of the day, future of internal audit in AI ML world, building next generation for internal audits. Please listen. First, the basic focus on internal audit should be on domains such as skills and capabilities, which are people, the human resource, ways of working, the processes, robust methods, agile models, and digital S&M solutions, which is technology. Second, you need to extend the use of traditional analytics to include predictive models, robotic process automation, and artificial intelligence. What results you want, you have to specify them in the programs so that they are able to give you the best of the results, and predictive models will help you a lot. The third, it would lead to realizing benefits. What are the benefits? Audit quality enhancement, very, very important. Risk reduction and increased risk intelligence. A technology will put us at a parallel where you start understanding the needs which the management want from you, need what the clients want from you, the need the regulator and governments want from you, and in an error-free environment, you are able to give that. What is the feature of internal audit? First, data analysis and visualization. ACL analytics for task automation and auditing, the data platforms like Oracle database and SQL server. Yes, you can visualize, you can analyze things and bring to book the fallacies. Number two, it is process automation. With robotic process automation, business can automate rules-based business processes. The third is analytic tools. Yes, analytical tools, you can use data mining, machine learning, predictive analysis to identify trends, generate predictive insights, or optimize for a desired outcome. Very, very important. What you intend to have, you have to have a roadmap for that. You have to create a blueprint, and ultimately the results come to you in that form. The last is AI, artificial intelligence. Yes, artificial intelligence is to automate tasks that previously would have required human intelligence. Now, you look, when you operate Facebook, when you operate your YouTube, even the department, when it sends notices to you, they formulate artificial intelligence and find out the areas where it need a great impetus. I want to thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really happy and proud to say that I have the best of the faculty on technology, Mr. Anand Prakash Jangir, who has been a regular faculty. I've been meeting him over now 15 years, and I'm very much impressed by his standards. So I requested him, and he was so kind to accept, and he's here. So over to Mr. Jangir, but before that to Mr. Paramjot, so that he would advise Mr. Jangir and we can take it forward. I want to thank you all for joining in great numbers so that we are able to do the right perspective for which we are formulated. Thank you. Thank you so much. The board is always there to serve you. If you have any issues with the board, any particular topic you want to take, I'll be more than happy to respond on that and ensure that we give our best of the services to all enlightened audience like you. And when I speak of enlightened, I am reminded of a Urdu couplet which I will state before you. The couplet says, "Manzil mil hi jayegi, thoda bhatak kar hi sahi. Manzil mil hi jayegi, thoda bhatak kar hi sahi. Gumrah to wo hain jo gharon se nikle hi nahi." The English version is that you may have to wander hard, but you will have your final destination. I am worried about those people who haven't stepped out of their house. People who have come here to go home more enlightened are the people who shall have the fruits of knowledge, the fruits of the latest technology, and use them to have excellence in their business perspectives and future initiatives. Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to Paramjot.
Thank you, Nanda sir, for telling us what we'll be learning today to our revered speakers today. So, as Nanda said, the technology is growing at such rapid pace. Let it be AI, let it be robotics, let it be cryptocurrency, let it be blockchain. So if we don't change ourselves with the changing times, we may lag far behind in a very short span of time. So I'd like to quote here one of our speakers from the last webinars. He said big data analytics a few years ago, it was like, big data is like a teenage sex. Everyone talks about it. Nobody knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, So everyone claims they are also doing it. But now since we are all here, let's learn how to use technology to our benefit in internal audit and forensics. So I'll not take much of the time and I'll hand over the presentation to Mr. Anand Prakash Jangeji. We are waiting for your presentation. I'll request all the participants to type and ask as much questions as you can so we can take the most of the benefit from the presentations. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Pramjot, and thank you, Nanda sir, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure actually to be there with all of you. And my sincere, apologies. Actually, I'm on the road and I'm taking this session from a cafe coffee day on a highway actually, and that's actually shows what has happened. This knowledge sharing, as sir rightly said, somehow we are actually can do it, from anywhere. And that is the power of technology, which is enabled today, and we are seeing the development which is happening on this one. So without much time, I'll just directly jump into the presentation which I had for today. And as the talk was going, I was just trying to do it. I hope you can see this, visible. So as Nandaji rightly said, we had fairness. We had accountability and transparency, which was a buzzword. And, I actually attended a couple of sessions of Nandaji, and that used to be the thing. And that's the reason I actually kept this word for today, the new buzzword. There has to be something what we call it up. You remember there was a time when anyone calling Java used to be something like a motorcycle. But over a period of time, Java changed to what? A language which we all know about that. Now, those kind of transformations are happening around us. And the new word, which is actually changing today, right now, is called the finance and audit transformation, a new type of fad. I know I'm a fat guy. It's not because of that I have coined this word, but this is something which has been there for a long time. Internal audit, the second line of defense, is something which has been using a lot of technology of late. Now, there were reasons for that, and I hope a lot of our friends will appreciate that. As a valued advisor, internal audit functions have been adding a lot of value to the organizations. But in this thing, there is a kind of expectation gap. When I say expectation gap, the resources available and what we can do with these resources. Now, these are the things which is actually changing around us. So my presentation, I have kept it in two parts. The first part, I just thought, I will just try to bring it. Why are we having this discussion today? Not in 2010. Even technology was there at that time. Now, there is a reason for that. A lot has changed in last 10 years, or what we call the genesis. And the adoption of this technology, which used to be something earlier called as, I think we use a word for that called democratization of technology, which means gone are the days when technology was actually meant for some large organizations with large budgets to be able to handle it up. Today, it is available to everyone, a small and medium professional. It's all democratized, just like we have access to information on Google. There was a time when you have to buy some very expensive book from US and other things to get that knowledge. But today we have access, everyone has access to the same thing. My previous organization, Infosys, used to have a tagline, winning in the flat world. What we used to call it up is, it is a flat world. The world is flat. You can be anywhere in the world and you will have the same kind of things out there. Now, in this kind of environment, fat becomes very, very important. So let's try to understand the genesis of that. Before I ask, I'm sure this is one word you have seen somewhere in dictionary. The word I want you to search in dictionary is called Luddites. And this is a photo of a leader of Luddites. Now, what is a Luddite? Let me explain it to you. Luddite is basically a kind of group which was there in the 1800 to 1816 in UK or England. What these people used to do is, they used to say that we don't want to have automation. At that point of time, a lot of garment industries were actually going through what we call it as a huge amount of automation. And these organizations, or these people, used to go and destroy the machinery, claiming that this is not something good and automation is bad and we are there. They tried for a very long time, but they were not successful because the benefits of automations and advancement in technology has, even after the losses, they were able to handle it up. Now today, if you see the word Luddites, is actually for someone who is not heavily basically struggling with technology or not able to adapt to technology. Now, why I ask this word is, in today's discussion, we'll start as what is FAT, then introduction to that, how it is transforming internal audit function. What are the learnings which we have on this? What are the opportunities which are coming? And what are the way forward in this area? Now friends, one of the very interesting thing in FAT which I wanted to bring out is this fourth industrial revolution plays a very important role. Today, as per World Economic Forum, and I'm sure you have seen the IIA has come out with a very interesting paper on World Economic Forum and fourth industrial revolution and internal audit function. Now, if you see, we are right now in the fourth industrial revolution. We started with Industry 1.0, which was basically in the 1784, and it started something like more of mechanization, steam power, and all that kind of thing. Then, this was the first time. But the peak of that came something in, if I have to say, I would say the peak would be something in around 1800 and 1830, the peak came, which is the time when the Luddites became very famous. Then came the Industry 2.0, which started in 1870, but the peak came in 1930s. If you have seen one of the very interesting movie of our very famous Charlie Chaplin, in that movie, Modern Times, I'm not sure if you have seen that, there is a kind of a scene where Mr. Charlie Chaplin goes into the machine and come out of that. There was mass assembly line, mass production, electrical energy, and they even had a scene where, you're fed by a machine. So it was a very interesting thing. Now, those things change a lot of things here. But the real automation came in Industry 3.0, which is computers and electronics. And they started in 1969, but the peak came in 2000. And you have seen it up. If you see the industry, it has changed a lot. But today, after 2017, we are actually entered what we call it as Industry 4.0, a kind of environment where we have cyber physical systems which are a different kind of business function altogether. Let's say I'm giving example of cyber physical system. If you are having a mobile, you would have Siri in your mobile, you are having OK Google in your mobile, and you are having Alexa on your mobile. Now, these are an example of cyber physical system. They are not there totally there in your system, but they are actually not there. The brain is somewhere else, right? We have IoT, Internet of Things. We have smart manufacturing. We have big data. Now, all these things are known as now Industry 4.0. And Industry 4.0 is actually changing very fast. It is changing the way we look and work. So this is something which we need to understand. Now, what has actually been the impact of this? This is what I wanted to show you, the finance transformation. I used to work for Goldman Sachs, and I remember that time. We used to always, when I was to go to US, I wanted to visit UBS. UBS was one of the large organizations at that time. And we wanted to visit UBS because of one reason and one reason only. You see this trading floor? This used to be the trading floor in 2005. Can you see the number of people who are there? And this used to be something very interesting and very, I would say, imaginative of them to be able to do that. Why? Because they have a kind of a huge amount of humans working on that. But see this in 2016. This is now closed down. This whole office is closed down because of only one kind of technology which is being used out there. And I'm sure all of you know about that. It is called as algo trading, algorithmic trading. If you've heard about that, that is the technology which has, removed the use of so many traders. You don't require that many traders. Now, there are cases like that which can happen to audit function also, but there has a, way out to reskill and upskill ourselves and see for ourselves what are the value add which we can bring using technology. Because algorithmic trading is there, you have to use it and you will be able to get, benefit out of that. We are not going to leave that thing just because we have people, right? So here, there is one very interesting statement made by Carl Schwab. He made a statement, I've heard about him. He's the founder and executive chairman of World Economic Forum, and he wrote a book on the fourth industrial revolution. And there is one very interesting statement which I want to quote. He said, we are on the brink of a technological revolution which is going to fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. Its scale, scope, and complexity, and the transformation will be unlike anything which humankind has experienced before. Now, I take a lot of pride in, talking about this because I had some contribution, at that point of time when I was in Infosys, there has some, Young Achievers Award which was there, and we had some contribution which was made to that. And if you read, they have talked about that this kind of scale, what we are talking about the changes, is something which has never ever happened earlier. And why do we say that? Let me explain it with an example. Can you see this next slide which I'm talking about? To reach 100 million customers, telephone took 75 years. 75 years is a long, long time. The World Wide Web, to reach 100 million users or customers, took 7 years. The Facebook itself took 4 years to reach 100 million customers. But if you know one game called Pokemon Go, in fact, I purchased one extra phone for that. It was an amazing game. You have to find out Pokemons and all the thing on the roads and everything. It actually had 100 million customers in less than 1 month. So can you imagine this reach of the technology, how it is moving? The evolution which is happening at a very fast pace. The adoption of technology is also going at that speed. Now, friends, this is what we are going. The impact is going to be from the perspective of, any of this kind of changes which are happening. Now, I want to talk about the fat mania because it's a mania right now. I'm telling you, you should go LinkedIn and search for one word, and that word is audit analytics or audit, automation. These two words you see. And you see the number of openings which are there in LinkedIn on that. And second thing, number of people who have that as their profile, which means there is a big, big demand on finance and audit transformation. And why I'm, bringing them together, though audit transformation is more, we need to understand audit is the one which is actually driving finance transformation also in many ways. That's the kind of a very interesting thing. And this mania has started on this 4 pillars, which, Nanda sir was rightly telling about. One is on automation and AI. And I will not talk too much about, AI side because our good friend Rajiv will be talking on that. But I will just give a touch up on that. The second is blockchain. Third, we have now moved it from cybersecurity to cybernetics because IoTs and other things are actually changing a lot of things in our audit. I would suggest you to do one thing right now because I would not want to share on my screen. Just go to YouTube if you are watching this because you're watching on some of the webinar, and search for a word called Amazon Go. Amazon Go is a store which is there in Seattle and many other parts. Now they have opened it up, and these stores are actually not having any checkout. You just go in, you pick up the items, and you just walk out, and they will make the bill and it will come to your Amazon account, and they will charge your account also. How do they know? This store doesn't have anyone, no security guard, nothing is there. So how do they operate? How does stock taking happen? Where are the audit trail? We have to ask these questions, right? I actually visited with one of my friend, and he used his QR code. We enter it, and for me also he used his QR code. Whatever I was buying in the store, it was getting added to his cart. And when we came out, it actually got billed to him. Cybernetics is a new thing which is very interesting, and the security part is one of the important parts in that which we need to look into. Then comes data economy. I'm just use the word data because data analytics, data mining, there are multiple things which are happening out there. We need to understand how it is impacting. Let's try to do one thing. I have thought of, because at the paucity of time, because I want to ensure it is something which we can add real value to it. I have divided it into 4 more bundles. One where I'll be talking about first advanced data analytics. I'll talk about data mining. I'll talk about a little bit on ML, that is on AI, a little bit blockchain, and then cybernetics. These are the 4 things we will cover, and I want to discuss mostly the use cases. Fred. I don't want to talk about at 30,000 feet. Let's try to talk about the use cases and the successes which lot of other organizations have done using that. So what are the things? Let's try to deep dive in. Now the first one is on advanced data analytics and AI. Now, this is one very interesting survey which was done by PwC for, they did it for, the global CFO survey, they do it. And they said that, which is the technology which is going to have most impact on finance? Now, in real term, it is all RPA. They're talking about robotic process automation, then basic AI, and then blockchain. But if you try to go a little further, in 2 to 3 years, they say the requirement of RPA is going to go down, and basic and intermediate AI is going to go back. And then blockchain is going to also carry on. In 3 to 5 years, it's much more of AI and very less of RPA, which is happening. Now, this is we talk about what has happened. So, why are we able to do advanced data analytics, which we couldn't do it earlier? I remember when I used to be in Goldman Sachs, I used to use ACL IDEA. We used to make scripts. We used to work on that. And then we used to go home and come next day, and the scripts are still running on the SAP data and all that kind of thing. But today the technology has changed. We have access to huge amount of data, not just internal data of the organization. I don't know if you have tried to go to one site called data.gov.in. You should go and check that site out. That is, Government of India has put so much of data, including data of election commission, data about vehicles, data about that, which is, you can just buy it off and use it. It's a government data which you can buy it up, which was not possible earlier. There are APIs, a huge. They said 90% of the world data is created in the last 2 years. That's a huge amount. And lockdown has also led to more data creation. Don't you think so? So much data has been created during that, including all the recipes which family group is sharing on the WhatsApp and everything. So we are creating a huge amount of data everywhere. And the second thing which is very interesting is this slide. This slide took me some time to make. I have tried to put everything which is there in the data economy, which is open source. Sorry. Okay. I hope you can see the screen. Yeah. This is everything This is everything which is there in what we call it as open source technologies. And this has made what we call it as our life very easy. I usually don't donate so much money, but if I have to donate sometime, I donate to only one site which is there, and that is Linux Foundation. I'm not sure if you have gone there. It is basically all this open source softwares are made by them. So they have made our life so easy. I don't know, I can just, maybe share with you. There is something called, you can see on the screen, 9. We use 9 as a tool extensively. We use a lot of tools like Weka, which is machine learning extensively. And all of them, see which is there. It's all free. You don't pay a money for that. There was a time when we used to use a software called SAS. SAS. It is a very interesting software. And you will be shocked to know, SAS software, one license will cost you, like if your implementation will cost you 1.5 crores. And today you can get the same amount of technology under that on open source by just spending some effort and other things without any money to be paid. Yeah, you have to know that stuff. But it's all about having the information at your fingertips. Now, these technologies and tools, what you're there in your screen right now, and I'll be sharing the presentation so you can download it anytime from there. All these things allows you to basically deal with a huge or large volume of data. Very, very large volume of data. When I say large volume of data, the problem with Excel and other things when we use, you have a limitation of 1 million line items or maximum 10 million line items. There are other versions which is there, Power Query and other things. So there are issues with that. But today, in this kind of environment, we have unlimited data which can be dealt with. Second, external data sources. Now, what do you mean by external data? See, let's say, for example, I want to check in a audit environment that in my inward and outward, so many truck numbers has been shown that this truck has come inside and gone. Can I validate this from Vahan.org web data set? Now, you may say that maybe yes, maybe no. But actually, I don't know how many of you know. You have an API of that which you can actually connect it up and you can check it up whether this vehicle number is correct or not. If I'm putting somewhere this is DL187640 truck number, on Vahan.org you can find out it is basically not a truck, it is a scooter. I hope when we do a e-way bill, always it gets done, right? That they will validate it up whether this is a thing. Now, if it can, GST department can do it. Can the internal department do it? Why not? It's very much possible. There are a lot of people who are doing it. Now, there are hundreds of external data, related party transactions, checking for the employee relations with vendors, blah, 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 all this kind of thing. You can connect it with a lot of external data sources today, which was not available earlier. Third, unstructured data. When I say unstructured data in PDFs, data in pictures, data which is like image of some invoices, which was not available for us to use it. Today, it is possible with technologies, a lot of technologies, what you're seeing on the screen, to basically analyze it up. And what is the most interesting thing, friends, I wanted to share with you? There is a new buzzword which goes no code or low code. No code or low code is a new buzzword, which means you should not have coding. You don't require a coding knowledge to be able to use this up. So no code and the low code, you can just Google this word. You'll find a lot of software which are saying we are low code or no code software, which means you should just have a basic common sense to be able to use them. And that's interesting. So it leads to a lot of unstructured data. Fourth, we can actually do a lot of statistical modeling. Statistical modeling I'm talking about, we have been, if you see our institute also, and IIA, like our CIA has also given the standards of internal audit. There is a requirement of using tools like Benford Law and all things. Now those has been actually used by us for a long time. But how many of you know there are a huge amount of interesting statistical model there, advanced model and other things to be explored, and that can be easily done with that. Machine learning, I'll discuss it later. Real-time analysis. We used to have a saying that internal audit is like post-mortem. You're doing it after the things has moved and everything. But now we have real-time alert system, which is giving you a warning if something is working or not working out there. And those things can add a lot of value. Imagine before the payment is made in an organization, if you can actually review it up whether it is correct or not. That is like continuous auditing has come a long way. We used to have the term called continuous auditing. We are talking about now predictive auditing, which means you are predicting where are the area where there can be a fraud or issues like that. And the last but not least is interactive visualization. A picture is worth 1,000 words. We all know that. Instead of doing a report, if you have a dashboard where you can see what is going wrong, as a human, we can do better analysis. I will be showing you some demo of process mining as we move forward, and you will understand what I'm trying to say here. My objective is we should, as much as possible, use interactive visualization, not just like some standard, abstract visualization, which is just giving one picture, which you can play around with, pivot it up, change it, and take, see if it is making sense or not. Okay. So these are some of the tools and technologies which we can use. Now, access to data and having so much of tools and technology, these two things has done amazing for us. So what are the things they have changed for us? Let me go to the next slide. Yeah, here we go. You see on the screen right now, these are all the tools of the trade which are actually helping us. Using 9, Kafka, all of Apache, all of them are basically, either open source or a very low cost system. They help you in a lot of way to manage the whole environment. And we call them, more from a perspective of the tools of the trade for storytelling. Now, what do you mean by storytelling? This is a new word under FAT in internal audit, because they said to the management. I remember when I was, in the internal audit department of Goldman Sachs, we had a training where they basically talk us and says, hey, you should know how to write a proper report. And one of the things which was saying is you should explain very clearly what it is happening. Now in storytelling of what we call it is, this is a new concept that you have a visualization. What is the value add you are bringing from the visualization? Now let's say this is one example. It's a trends of all the tickets which are coming at different point of time. Tickets are basically nothing but I'm showing some data that okay, help desk function of my company is getting so many requests for help at different point of time. So you can telling it up ticket volume received and ticket volume processed. Now if you notice this, what can I make out of that? Instead of showing a bar chart like that, which doesn't give me anything, in a storyline I said, we require 2 FTE. We want 2, full-time employees because our ticket volumes are increasing day by day, and we are not able to process it up. You can see it here. We receive 177 and we're only able to process 140, which means I am adding some value add. I'm just giving them some example where decision making can be better. Now, there are a lot of interesting use cases and success stories out there, and whatever I'm showing you here right now are all being done, and either we have done it or someone else has done it. We know about that, and these are not something which are like wish list. These are success stories. It has been done. What kind of thing which you are talking about? Identification of fraud and revenue leakage in accounts payable, which is one of the area where duplicate payment and other thing happen. There are organizations which is in the field of what we call it FMCG company, which are predicting which of the dealer is going to become a bad debt based on the previous trends. They are using the learning from the previous trend and pushing it into the system. They are using it to do what we call as spend analytics. This is one of the new term which is being used extensively by internal audit functions worldwide. It is basically trying to see that how much we are spending on different function, different part of the world, if I'm a large organization, and how I'm actually adding value from that. So this is what we do in spend analytics. Trying to do a general ledger review. Like, most of the time, one of the biggest problem is that in large organization, GL codes which are there, are we using the right GL codes? Or there are being wrong GL code being used? Can we do a real-time automated review of all the things before your financial statement is being made? So those things has to be looked into. Can we check out that there is a collusion with vendors when there is a contract being awarded? Okay. And in the banking environment, predicting non-performing assets before they become a non-performing asset. Now that will be very interesting. In fact, I don't know if you know, Basel III has actually mandated for that there should be use of data analytics tools to be able to, help them in other areas to make sure of that. And one of my interesting most, area which I love the most is T&E claims. T&E claims is one area which is huge amount of volume wise, it is very big. But the value add which you can do per transaction is very less. Now, this is the best example of where you should use what we call it as, advanced data analytics. It can be a mix of data visualizations, data, it can be a mix of AI, anything which we can actually deal with and help us, make better decisions. And that is what we are talking about here, friends. Okay. Moving forward, I would like to talk a little bit about machine learning. A very basic thing I'll just tell you, because I've been talking about machine learning. Now, machine learning is a very interesting concept, friends. Why it is interesting, I'll explain you. Earlier, what used to happen is, we used to basically make the program, then connect it with the data, and then we used to get the output, right? Machine learning is a very different way. I give the data to the machine and tell him that please make sense out of the data. And I can tell them, I can give them a supervised or unsupervised, which means in unsupervised, I'll not tell what they have to do. But in supervised, I'll tell them, check for this kind of things and figure it out yourself what is there. Now imagine it is like teaching a kid how to do things. If I ask a kid, don't play with fire, do you think the kid will listen to me? Maybe yes, maybe no. But the moment a kid actually burn his finger once, do you think that kid would again go and play with fire? I don't think that person will do this. Now that is something which we are talking about from the perspective of using machine learning. You are basically giving the data set and making the system learn from the data set. And it is so powerful that it can predict a lot of things which humans cannot do. The challenge with humans are we see things in maximum 2 dimension. Okay? And if we, with some help, we can go for 3 dimension. Whereas machines, they can see the same thing from multiple direction. So anyway, Rajiv will talk a lot more about machine learning, so I don't want to go into that. The basic idea is that there you are making the machine do a lot of things. And in audit and risk management, machine learning can be used extensively. It can add a lot more value than what we can think of, and this is what we should actually understand and add value to. Okay? There are other areas in Android like pattern analysis, external data analysis, log mining, behavioral analysis, interactive visualization, unstructured data, real-time monitoring. But what is the most interesting thing is this one, process mining. What is process mining? Let me, instead of telling you with this, let me just show you guys. Okay. Here is one example of process mining I would like to show. Okay, this is MSN. Okay, here it is. What is process mining? I'm just trying to tell you. See, usually every organization has an SOP, right? As a internal auditor, we would like to know whether you are following the SOP or not. When we do our transactions, we do a walkthrough. But there is a problem. The problem is, many a time, you don't actually see the full picture. So the SOP is called as the happy path. Happy path means how it should work. But when you try to take every transaction and the timestamp of the transaction and analyze it with tool, you basically know that no, something is not okay. And then you understand what is going wrong in the organization. What you're seeing on the screen is a P2P process. I'll little bit of zoom it for you. I'm not sure it is visible or not. A little more zoom. So what happens here is you can see this, a process start. There is a purchase requisition. PO is created. PO is submitted. PO is released. Goods is received. GR is accounted. Invoice entered and invoice is accounted for. Right? Now, I will try to show you that when we did an analysis of the logs of all the thing, what do we find? Now we are finding that there are around 64,000 transactions were there, out of which after purchase requisition, lot of POs were directly submitted. You can see 2,900 and something amount that. Okay, I try to go a little bit of more detail here. I find that after there were a lot of POs which were created without purchase requisition. Maybe okay, no problem. I do a little more detailed analysis. I find that the POs were released and again they were amended and put it again. I do more analysis of this. I start finding out that there are new paths which are being established. A very few transactions are actually using the real path of the transaction. It is a very messy affair. It is not working in the way, the straight line which I have talked about. And I can animate it up saying that all the transactions which you are seeing right now, can you tell me how many transactions, where are the problem, where is the, the breakup, where is the problem happening? You see animate it up that I have most problem happening between PO requisition done and PO created. And also I have issues between PO released and PO which are being done. So what I'm trying to say is what you're seeing on the screen is exactly what we call as process mining. This is like on real data where we are analyzing it. It is trying to tell you on a daily basis where are the loopholes are, which area you are going very slow, which area are going fast. Are you following the standard operating process or you are doing whatever coming to your mind? And this is showing that you are actually doing whatever is coming to your mind. So this is something which we need to understand. And this is what exactly is process mining. Okay. So friends, process mining adds a lot of value. So it's a process management technique that allows analysis of all the business processes based on event logs. whatever the event logs are there, whatever the event has happened, you do it. You can see there is a purchase order activity, there is a timestamp, who was the user and what was the item. I have only analyzed that data from a perspective of knowing what value add I can bring to that. And this is what we do in process mining. And once you do it, I found that more than 60% of the purchase order has been modified. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's a very bad thing. We have to do a root cause analysis, why it is done. There are more than 200 instances of manual payment. There are significant number of invoices without PO. And invoices are posted without GR. So all these things are basically telling us what are happening right, what is happening wrong. So this is something which we need to understand and work on to be able to appreciate how it can add value to an organization. Okay, so this is what we do in process mining. Moving forward, what types of questions can advanced analytics answer for us? So friends, there are a lot of interesting questions it can answer for us, like hindsight, insight, and foresight. What happened? That is my hindsight. It is basically a kind of analysis of what has gone right, what has gone wrong. I can get an insight. Where is the problem? What is the action which is needed for this? And why is this happening? What is the reason for that? So I can actually use those information also. And I can actually get foresight, which means that what if the trend continues? If this is the way it is happening in future, what is going to happen? And what is the best we can actually do in this kind of scenario? All these things are something we can actually look into, analyze, and take that forward. So this is the types of questions which advanced analytics can answer for us. But there are some guiding principles which I thought we should be knowing here. The first one is very important whenever you go into all of this advanced analytics. Link your goal and objective. When I say goal and objective, you should know very clearly what are the business driver and why we are doing it. It should not be as something Nanda sir was saying. Everyone, or no, Prabhu said everyone is doing team sex. So no one knows about that, but we just do something and we are happy with that. No, let's try to be very clear. What is the value add? What is the value to the organization we can show? The second one, very important, is know your data. Why I say that? Data is everywhere. Getting the data ready for you will find out a lot of missing elements which are there. And that is a very important part. So we have to know what kind of data we have and whether this data is good enough. What is the quality of data? In fact, I was actually in New York sometime back, and we had a conference out there, and we had the head of audit of AIG Insurance who was there. So I just asked a question as an audience after his session that, so what do you think is the most biggest challenge in data analytics? He said, getting the data ready for analysis. Analysis is easy, but getting the data ready, or we call it ETL, extract, transform, load. That part, friends, is not an easy task. That has to be actually looked into. Okay. Third point, very important guiding principle, is to start simple. Don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to do, okay, let's do some big end thing. See the small thing first. Get your confidence level built up. Start, you can take help of some of the vendors and all the things, because it is always better to start with some help. Then you can actually develop the capabilities in-house and take it up there. And you should also do a lot more ad hoc analysis which can be done. I have shown you the tools and other things which are there. I would highly recommend you to use them because they are going to be very, very powerful tool to help us on doing it up. Fourth, leverage your existing insight. If there are some understanding which you have for business and you know that this data can do this for me, I would highly recommend you to, as much as possible, try to leverage those one. Instead of reinventing the wheel, use those things that will actually help you in terms of dealing with it. Okay. Fifth, make it actionable and measurable. Whatever we are doing it should not be some open item. It should be actionable, which means we can take decision based on that information, as well as it is measurable. The benefit we are getting out of that, we should be able to measure it out. We should be able to know that and enjoy answer. So those things are the fifth important point. And the sixth one thing is test and learn, which I always call is always have an approach of POC, proof of concept. What do you mean by POC approach? Don't try to go very big. Start small and make some small POC. If the results are good of the POC, you can develop it bigger and be ready to make mistakes. There are going to be some mistakes. There are going to be some challenges. It is fine if you do that. No problem at all. But it is important that we start and manage it up in that way. Okay? So these are some of the points. The 6 guiding principle which I say, advanced analytics, is the first part of the 2 important part, that is how to use the data and use AI in our finance and audit transformation, especially audit transformation, friends, because that is critical out there. Okay, moving forward, the second part is blockchain. Now, what is the relationship of blockchain in internal audit? This is very interesting because there is a statement which was done in Harvard Business Review by Joe Ito, Nehu Rirura, and Robelli. They made a statement in the issue saying that blockchain will do to financial system what internet did to media. Now, I'm sure most of us today, when we are consuming any of the new media or any of the data, we have changed after the access to data which is there right now. And this is one of the reasons this has made it very easy. Everyone has access to that. Blockchain actually help us in one very interesting thing. You know what is that, friends? Reconciliation. It actually removes the need for reconciliation. Inter-branch, inter-company, inter-organization, wherever you have the concept of reconciliation coming up, and if you're using out there a blockchain, I'll explain you what it is. It actually disrupts us a lot. And that is the reason it is adding a lot of value for organization. The connection between internal audit teams and the function of blockchain is it can
I think there are some technical issues on Anil's end. We'll have to wait for 2 minutes and we'll be resolving it very soon. Aarti ma'am, can you look onto that? Let us wait for just 2 minutes while we connect with Anand sir. Let me get back to you guys.
Okay. I just got dropped off for a second.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are still not able to see your video, sir.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm just back now.
Yes, sir.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Sorry for that. So I was actually talking more from a perspective of the concept, how it has transformed what we call it as the whole area of the financial system. And this is important because of 2 reasons. Blockchain is going to have impact on the organization finance function, and interchangeably it will also impact what to do. See, as finance, they are the custodian of ledgers. And all of you have seen these ledgers out there. But there is a problem with databases. Imagine a blockchain as a database cannot work. You think that this is not a great thing, but it is a great thing from this perspective. If you know, blockchain came from the perspective of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, they wanted to have a ledger account where all the transaction of the Bitcoin transaction can be captured without any tampering. So they designed a database which was very, very powerful. It uses algorithms which are encryption algorithms. It uses a methodology through which tampering is not possible. It reminds me of the days when we used to have a ledger, and I remember manual books of account when we used to review them. We used to check for brought forward and carry forward things, because many of the time client used to do badmashi here. You see this 215523. So this is the brought forward balance, and then there is a carried forward balance. Now, those are the things we used to check it out. Blockchain does something like that. It basically makes an entry into the database, which is basically tamper-proof. You cannot tamper with that after that. And that is what it helps us. So as a custodian of ledger, we have to understand about them. I'm not going into deep into blockchain because it is some topic where we can actually have full discussion for a day. But I just thought I'll give you a glimpse of this, of why this is a part of finance and audit transformation. So this is a time spent or append only log, something which is a log where every transaction is captured and done it. So you can also say this as triple entry systems of bookkeeping, because in double entry system of bookkeeping there is a challenge. The challenge is simple. When I write an entry, let's say for example in examination we used to write in the books of X, in the books of Y, you will pass one entry, I will pass one entry. But there in examination environment, it is done by the same guy. So the entry is going to be correct. But in real life, what will happen? So let's say Paramjot is there and I am there. We are two different entities. In the books of Paramjot, he will write an entry and I will write in the books of Anand. Now it is not mandatory that we will both pass the same kind of entry. And that lead to a challenging environment. So friends, this is something which has been removed by blockchain. I do an entry in my book, Paramjot does is in his book, and we do a third entry, where? In the books of the blockchain. So there is a third single source of truth which is used by both of us. And that is the power which we are talking about here. And something which can add a lot of value for both of us. I hope you got my point, friends.
So your voice is breaking a little. Could you just check it a little?
Okay, just 1 minute. Just give me a moment. Huh?
Sure, sir. Sure, no problem.
So I just did one thing. I just changed my network, so I think it will be much better.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
No issues.
This is some of the challenges we have to face. So coming back now, if this is the case that if there is an entry in the books of Paramjot, there is a book entry in the books of Anand, and there's a third entry in the book of blockchain, which is validated by both me and Paramjot using our digital signature. Don't you think tomorrow, if there is any issue comes, we will say that, okay, neither my book is pakka, neither your book is. Whatever is written in the blockchain will go. This concept of consensus protocol, an auditable database, and a timestamp log. And it is so powerful, friends, because even Oracle and all the other databases there, it can be tampered with from the backend. But this part cannot be tampered. And that is the value add we are bringing to the table. Okay. So friends, here I want to talk about one more thing, very importantly. Can you see the screen right now where I have actually put something called as why you cannot cheat in blockchain? The reason why you cannot cheat in blockchain is after every block is done, it has something which we call as hash value. Hash value is nothing but it's a kind of a algorithmic thing. We use a digital signature. There also hash value is generated. So if you try to tamper with any block of database which is there, it will actually put a cascading effect. So it is impossible to do tampering out there. This is the very interesting thing which a blockchain brings up. And this is going to be area which is going to transform first finance because they are going to use it, and audit because they have to understand how to audit blockchain, because there have been some media reports and all things which is useless. I don't believe it. They said if blockchain comes, auditors are not required. In fact, auditors are required. You have to audit them, but you have to audit them in a different way. You have to understand the concept behind that and check for consensus protocol is okay or not, whether there are some other building blocks are properly done or not. So all those things has to be looked into. The trust of safety, the trust of issuance, and trust of correctness has to be validated, because it is like we have something called as SA 402. When service organization something is outsourced, multiple people are going to trust it. How do we give it up that? So it is going to be a trust principle which we have to bring it up there and manage it out. It is going to be a very interesting area, and I would say you should keep an eye on that one. Then moving to the last part of what I wanted to discuss. Here I will discuss orally some of the very important points, because this is very close to my heart, cybernetics and cybersecurity. The financial assertions which we have, or as a second line of defense, what we are trying to see in the financial reporting, friends, it's getting impacted a lot. There have been a lot of incidents I have seen of cybersecurity and other things. And imagine one thing. If you are having a company which is in manufacturing system, you are using a system called SCADA, which is actually giving you that how much stock is there in the big pillars and other things which is there in manufacturing process. What is your WIP, work in progress, and all that kind of thing. If you are actually going to trust all of them, we should know that no one can tamper with that. If someone can tamper with that, your complete financial assertions are going to dogs, right? The second thing is integrity issue. We have seen and we have experienced it also. I'm sure all of you have seen it, that many a time when we are talking about the integrity on the information systems, let it be any of the thing. Can we rely on that? Let's say, I'll give you one example. Internet of Things, IoTs, they are sensors which are there. Now, there are a lot of industries like windmill or electrical or, let's say, electrical productions and all things. Now, there is no other way of monitoring them except for using the tools like IoTs and all things. Now, as an auditor, I need to be knowing that. I cannot be doing superficial things. I need to know the integrity issues which can be there. Can it be tampered with? Can people show me a different picture altogether? And those becomes important. Without knowing about them, without understanding it correctly, I will not be doing justice to my job. And the expectations have come for people to deal with that. Because industries, manufacturing is moving toward automation already. You can see it happening. Industry 4.0, the biggest thing which is going to happen is a lot of automation in manufacturing. And when that happens, are we ready to know how are we going to audit those areas? Those areas have cybernetics, they have cybersecurity, they have integrity issues, they have assertions on our financial, statement. Because if I'm trying to say that if you have seen silos, in a lot of industry there are silos where they store different chemicals. It will give you a kind of how much items are there. But it is basically a SCADA system or an IoT system. Can it be tampered with? Very easily. If you want to know more about that, go on to YouTube and search for one word, hacking IoTs. You will see that there are class 10 kids who are showing how to hack IoTs and do funny things out there. Now, it can be done in a large organization. Yes. There are protection. Yes. So we need to know what are the risks, what are the controls. My only is there is our RCM. We are actually very happy with our risk control metrics and all the things. But our RCM, if they are not updated to the right part, we are actually not doing justice to the whole thing, right? So those things has to be looked into. And last but not least, this is my most point which I want to talk about is privacy and compliance issues. Compliances are increasing, and there have been risk compliance list is going high. And then there is a privacy part. Now, privacy, I know you have heard a lot of things on PII, our Information Technology Act, GDPR, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people are not understanding. there are a lot of leakage which are happening from a privacy perspective. Let me give an example. When I was doing my articleship type, and I'm sure all of you have done your articleship type, 3 years of bonded laborship. Why we call it bonded laborship? Anyone? Because you sign a bond. Nothing. Don't take it other personally and all things. We sign a bond, right? So it's a bonded work. You're doing it. When we are doing it, friends, you remember one very interesting thing. Personally, whenever you used to go for any audit, what information do you wanted to know? Personally, not from an audit perspective. I'll give you mine. I wanted to know what is the salary of the CFO. Because, it's a future, I want to become a chartered account, CFO of any company. And I would like to know how much this person can earn. That was used to be personality. But many times, there were some clients who never used to share this information because payroll data is always confidential, right? So we used to go and check up. They used to say, no, we'll not give you the payroll data. We'll give it to your boss. You are not going to go to access. You are a first year article or a second year article. It's fine. Now, but personally, we wanted to check it. So what we used to do? We used to ask them for compliance data, PF and ESI. Now, don't you think if I get the PF data and ESI data, I will somehow know that salary detail? I can do a back-end calculation. Now, this is exactly what is happening today in cybersecurity, in privacy. We put checks and balances on one side, and other side there are data leakage which are happening. So we are trying to, protect on one side. On the other side, the data is all moving out, and this is something which we have to plug the thing, and that is very important to look it into. I would say it has to be a holistic approach. You have to see things in holistic approach, and as auditors, I think most of the people are very well equipped to be doing it. It is only that we have to upskill ourselves a little bit of it. I'm not saying we have to become hackers and all things, but my only point is that we have to upskill ourselves to understand the risks and what should be the controls which we need to put into it. Okay? So, friends, just to summarize what I actually wanted to talk, I have like time till 7:25. I had time, so I just thought 5 minutes for any Q&A. But I'll just try to summarize what we discussed today. We started with, as Nanda sir rightly said, fairness, accountability, and transparency used to be a buzzword. And what is the new word which has come out there today is finance and audit transformation. And what is driving this finance and audit transformation is the very interesting concept of what we call it as the fourth industrial revolution, because that is the genesis, guys. Please understand that we should know about this because this is what is causing the rapid transformation which is happening. Now, if the other part of the business is growing and changing at a very fast pace, and we are not able to, I can say, top up with that, we will be left behind. And this four things is what we call it as, you have all noticed it out there. The four things are starting from the pillars, what we call it as, is AI and automation. And as Nanda sir and Pramod both have talked about, robotic process automations, data, advanced analytics, machine learning, and to be talked about by Rajiv also in detail. All those things are something which add values in terms of the first part, which we call AI and automation. Second part is what we call the blockchain, and blockchain is going to be a transformative thing. It will take some time. You have seen the survey. It is not going to happen immediately. It is going to take 2 to 3 years before you see the impact of that. But it is important. What I always say is to take baby steps. We have to do experimental approach. If you have read the latest issues of Harvard Business Review, there was an article. This is basically saying when to work with your competitor. One of the very interesting article which is mentioned in the latest issue is that the organization which has been successful and which has been grown are basically those organizations which have taken extra steps. They have not just sit in idle saying that, okay, when these things become mature, we are going to do that. They have taken steps and they have tried to do multiple things to be able to understand and take that forward. They are the guys who have, basically taken, they have learned from the mistake. They have done mistakes. It's not that it's going to be all very nice and all the things. They have learned from the mistakes. They have learned how things are changing, what are the key things which are impacting out there. And from there, they have gone a long way. And then comes the last part, which is cybersecurity. We talk about cybersecurity or cybernetics is one area which is going to impact different parts of the thing. Let it because the businesses are becoming more automated. Our manufacturing, our business functions are becoming automated. Take banking also. Today, bankings are using bots. You're aware of that, right? There are bots which are being used by banks like HDFC Bank. Now, how do we know the bots is not actually doing something harmful or disclosing some data which is not supposed to be disclosed as per RBI guidelines? Now, this has to be reviewed. It means the bot has to be reviewed. So how do we do that? I remember a long time back when algorithmic trading was there, we used to audit algorithms. Okay. And there is now an algorithm association, audit association also, AAA, they call it themselves. So they are now auditing it because can the algorithm be biased? Yes. It has actually happened in California. What happened was there was a program which was written to basically, do what? To dispatch police cars to be in the different areas, localities of California. After the implementation, what do they find? They find that most of the cars are going into the black neighborhood because the weightage which was given for the black area vis-a-vis white area, because it's racist. You are not seeing the crime data. You are not giving weightage to the crime data. You are giving that whether there are black people in this area or white people in this area. And based on that, you are sending more police cars in the black neighborhood compared to white neighborhood. Now that whole algorithm was scrapped and the new program was written. Now this is what we are talking about. There are biases which can come in. And as a audit function, as a independent advisor, as a valid advisor, it becomes our duty to work on them. And friends, my submission to all of you would be, please start small in any of these 4 areas which are there. You will see the value add which comes is going to be more interesting. And you can actually check out some of the sites which I can share it with the branch and with our committee, and you can download it up, which gives you a lot of information on that. It is not like something which will take a lot of effort or all the thing to start. The teams can start themselves. They can see it for themselves what are the things which is there and add a lot of value in terms of dealing with that. Okay, so that's all the submission from my side. Over to Navjot. I think it's pretty interesting to work or share dice with Navjot as well as Sir Nanda Sir, and I would request all of you to please start working on this area. Pat is there. It is going to come and impact us. The more faster we start, we take the, there's a kind of a saying, early bird gets the praise. So please start early. It will be great. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful deliberation. You have actually assigned the right word, fact to this technological revolution. Because there's so much to learn in itself, that it actually is a fact topic which we can learn. So it is a technological revolution. We had an agricultural revolution, then we had industrial revolution, and now it's indeed a technological revolution. There was news just a few days back that CA in Jaipur, she has developed a software, Audit, which can do audit in 30 seconds. Right. So how successful it will be, that we'll know with time, obviously. But definitely people are day in and day out working on with technology and bringing changes. And thank you for also reassuring that the internal audit functions are not going anywhere, but the ways we are going to do it are going to change.
Yes, so I think you are perfectly right. That point which you mentioned about that, I have also heard that news, and that is very interesting. They are doing a lot of things, which is actually a great thing. But my point which is there are a lot of advancement which has happened. And as you rightly said, people will learn from that because, there are going to be a lot of experimentation. I hope you have seen when the industrial revolution happened of the second and third, there are a lot of, experimentation and failures. It is all fine, but we have to try it. Unless we try it, we'll not know what works and what doesn't work out there. That's the point.
Definitely, sir. The technology has indeed, improved with time after some failures, and also AI. Also, we have seen some setbacks also in the AI and robotics, and then people have come up and improvised the technology to work for the betterment. So thank you so much, sir. We are honored to have you, and you have joined us from CCD on the way you were going somewhere, and the benefits of technology, as you said, that you can join in from anywhere and anytime.
Right.
Thank you. We'll hopefully seeing you at the end of the seminar for the Q&A session.
Sure. I will be logging in again from my mobile on the car. I'll be there. So only thing is that I could have taken it in the car, but I didn't want it to have issue with the connectivity, so I just thought it's a good place I sit and I can actually take it.
We are honored, sir. Thank you so much.
No, it's just a pleasure.
Now we have another fraternity, C. Amit Bajoria is here from Bangalore. He is a global finance controller and the head of internal audit for Wipro Limited. His direct reporting is to the Wipro Group CFO, and as head of Wipro's controllership, Amit ji is responsible for financial reporting, technical accounting, both in IFRS and GAAP, filings with SEC, revenue assurance, treasury controllership, SOX, financial control, financial functional risk management, operational excellence for R2R, O2C, and P2P, and financial due diligence in merger and acquisition activities. He also heads and guides the F&A process of internal share services. The controllership administers Wipro's operations in over 50 countries and actively manages the company's process in areas of O2C, P2P, R2R, and H2R, reporting compliance, audit, funding requirements, financial controls, efficiency, consolidates more than 100 entities and business units every quarter. Amit ji has 20 years of professional and Wipro experience. Prior to being the global controller, Amit ji was heading the internal audit function for Wipro, reporting to the audit committee chairman. Under his leadership, Wipro internal audit team received ISO 9000-2015 Standard and Innovation Award 2018 by ICAI. He is a regular speaker on the topics of governance, risk, and assurance, and we are greatly honored to have you here, sir. We'll today deliberate on the topic of how we can adopt the technology in auditing and accounting. So I think there can be no better person to guide us on that one, sir, considering you have tremendous experience and of different countries and consolidating companies entities across the world. Thank you, sir, for being here with us, and please, you can begin with your deliberation, Amit, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Param. Thanks for this wide introduction. So thank you for that. So Param, just wanted to know how much time do I have so I can pace my discussion accordingly.
Let's say, sir, you have around 30 to 45 minutes. You can.
Got it. Perfect, guys. Perfect. So will someone just put up the slide, Param? That will be easier for me to then, or how do you want me to?
You have to share your screen, sir.
Okay, I will do that.
Yes, sir.
Can you see my deck now?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So guys, good evening. So like Param said, I have been on the other side. I was heading internal audit. Now from internal audit, I have moved to controllership. So I have seen both the view of the world, and I can tell you how I have looked at technology when I was driving internal audit, and how I am looking at technology adoption when I'm driving function, which is controllership as a function, and the function is spread across 60 countries. We consolidate 100 entities. So technology adoption is absolutely the critical for us as we go in this journey, and we are pretty much in the journey. So some of the things which I think you heard from our previous speaker, I'll kind of give you some color how we have adopted in the real-time scenario in Wipro. And obviously it's a journey, guys. So I cannot say we all are there. It's pretty much a journey, but I think we are fairly well in the journey. That's the way I'm going to, and I'll give you two flavors of my slide. One flavor is about how are we digitizing our internal functions, which is either the audit function or the controllership function, meaning how do I adopt technology within the function. And second part, I will focus on how do we audit some of this function. So this is both I will cover in my session. So this is what I was talking about. In the way I will look at into how do you audit and account with digital, meaning how are we adopting technology in our work environment? How are we ensuring some of the concept which we talked about, whether it's RPA, whether it's a bot, or whether it is a digital workflow, or it's a data mining or a process mining, how we kind of adopt while executing the function. And what do I mean by that? When I consolidate the entities, when I run a shared services, when I do my vendor reconciliation, how do I leverage some of these technologies? Second part, which we are going to cover, now the world is becoming digital, and everyone else, each of the functions are adopting technology. how are we ensuring those technologies are getting automated? And some of the things, again, it was talked about the previous speaker, with the bots getting implemented across all the functions as an internal audit function, are we equipped to audit those functions? Because it's no more audit of data, it is no more audit of sample, it is no more audit of contract, it is auditing the bot. Are we equipped, and what are we going to audit in those? So though I will again try to give some color around it. So first part we'll focus on how we have adopted auditing and technology within the functions. So Tim, this broadly gives you a journey of how we have adopted technology in our shared services. To give you color of our shared services, we process around 20,000 invoices every month, and we process the invoices across 60 countries. We support around 42 languages. So that's the spectrum which we support. Obviously, without technology, none of this is possible. So again, you will see lot of usage of the word, but I just wanted to give you a broad flow of how the entire thing is digitized. It is a completely workflow. It is integrated from upstream to downstream. And what do I mean by upstream to downstream?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Amitji, but
Yes.
change your slide because we can still see only your first slide.
Okay. It is not yet moved. Okay. It
Yes.
says actually I have moved. I'm just thinking, how do I, let me try the entire screen, and maybe that helps. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now we can view it. Yes, sir.
You can see the next slide, right?
It's adopting technology in financial services.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for that, guys.
No problem.
So what I was talking about, how we have adopted technology, this will give you a good bird's eye view of the entire technology adoption. And it starts from upstream, where we have implemented, obviously, SAP Ariba is a technology which we have chosen, where our entire PO, purchase requisition, all of those goes through SAP Ariba. Based on the SAP Ariba and the PO, we get an invoice from the vendor, and the invoice can come into multiple channel. And what do I mean by multiple channel? We have created a chatbot, which has been opened up through API to the vendor. He can log into a chatbot and he can upload the invoice. System will automatically validate based on the PO number which he puts in, whether we have an open PO balance, whether the service has been rendered, and based on that, it will create a document or a workflow in my internal system for my agent to see and make the payment. He can also send a mail to one of the standard mail ID which we have given to them. As soon as the mail ID comes, it is integrated in my system. It creates again a workflow automatically based on that invoices which has been sent by the vendor. It does the screening of the invoice and it creates again the workflow. So the entire thing is workflow. There's no manual intervention involved. Assuming a vendor, my agent doesn't find, hey, the PO balance is not right, or he's not.
Amit sir, sorry again. We can just see the slide, which the slide we are seeing is not showing the workflow. It's showing adopting technology in financial services before 2019.
Yes, Param. I'm just talking over. I'm not getting into each slide. I'm giving a flavor of it.
Just wanted to share. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine, Param. I thought I'll not get into so much of slide. I'll kind of walk them through. So I'm just giving them the flavor of it.
Right.
And once the invoice goes, it will, again, the systems have built the three-way check, the duplicate payment check. So some of the words you are seeing here, but the way we wanted to say here, technology is one part of it, guys. End of the day is a business rule. What do we check whenever we go for an audit or when we do a processing? What do we want to check? We want to check there's a three-way matching, whether PO, invoice, and green matches, whether it's not a duplicate invoice, whether the service credit has been done or not. All the validation, how do you build in the system? And that is where technology comes in. You can use RPAs, and we have used a lot of RPAs in our entire workflow to ensure that the system does this validation rather than we depending upon a independent system. And on top layer, you kind of put a Tableau or any of the Spotfire, which will give you the right dashboard and MIS to see, hey, how your processing is working. So I'm not getting into each of those, guys, but just to give you flavor, when you look at the entire spectrum, you look at adoption of technology from upstream to downstream, and then Based on the business rule, you decide hey, what technology will make sense for that business rule to be achieved. So again, this is what I was talking about. Basically the flow which we have looked at, how we make it paperless and straight through process. I think the earlier speaker talked about the happy path. Happy path is nothing but straight through process. Thinking, hey, if a particular invoice comes against a PO, it should not go through any hoops and it should go through a straight through. And system should be able to validate. So there is no touch point within that. And that's where you implement a lot of technology to ensure that all the validation are done by the system rather than someone manually opening a PO, going to other system, checking whether there's an open PO balance or not, going to another system and checking whether there's a service green or not. Today, all of this can be done by technology, and that is what we have implemented. I spoke about some of these RPAs. I'm just giving some of the flavors. Now, this is what I was talking about. This is the interface which we have created for our external vendors. We have around 14,000 vendors across the globe. We used to have a huge problem where vendor does not know whether his invoice has got submitted. If it got submitted, has it got approved? If it is approved, does the payment has been done? If the payment has been done, when the wire has been done? If the wire has been done, what is the wire number? Because he's not able to locate the payment in his bank. And used to be huge time consumption for the agents, because most of the time they are interacting with the vendor, and the experience of the vendors were not good because sometimes they never used to get a response and they were saying, hey, Wipro is not paying money. So the entire thing has been now automated. So it's a chatbot which we have created. A vendor can log in, he can submit an invoice, and he can see a real-time status of his invoice. He can ask a query in that invoice. He can check his purchase order, how many purchase order he has opened. He can check his remittance copy of his payment. So everything is automated and it's completely touchless. He has the access as a vendor. Based on his vendor access, he can log into the system. And good part, guys, this access has been also enabled for our internal teams. When I mean internal team, internal business team, because many times vendor reach out to our business teams, because sometimes he's not aware, and that business team also did not have to interface with our agents. Now they can again log into this chatbot and they can see, hey, how this entire thing is working. So you can see, hey, by simple technology adoption, the entire experience of the third party, which are vendor, and the entire productivity which you can drive is humongous. And it's a very, very simple chatbot which is internally developed. Obviously there are tools and technology, but internally developed and deployed. So again, I'm not going to talk about all of those, but I just wanted to give some flavor of the RPA which we have adopted. I'm sure all of you know in the end of like today, just to give you again a flavor, guys, we have 400 banks accounts across the globe. And obviously at the end of the day, there are few bank accounts where we need to keep all our money in. So we get the best interest and we can optimize our cash flow. So it used to be a humongous task by a manual person to enter into the system at the close of the transaction and move money from one bank to another. Entire process has been automated by deploying an RPA. So what does that RPA does? At the particular time, the agent has to just click a button. The RPA will move money from one account to another. It has been configured in the system. He knows which account he has to move money and to which account he has to move money. So entire thing from moving the money to passing the entry has been done by system now. We used to always find out of the 400 bank account, some 10 account has been missed out, 20 account has been missed out, by the amount has moved, but the entry has not been passed, there's huge reconciliation issue. All of those has been now taken care by bots. Second thing where we have implemented bots is on BRS, bank reconciliation statement. Means when you have 400 accounts, you have to prepare the BRS, and preparing a BRS of 400 accounts on a periodic basis, and our period used to be a weekly period earlier, it was a painful task. Because someone has to download the bank statements, go through our GLs and identified, hey, there is a delta entry. If there's a delta entry, why it is lying, whom it is lying. The entire part of it now has been taken over by bot. And what now we are working as the next stage team, we are creating a workflow. Wherever we find there is some hanging entries, system will automatically, based on a workflow defined, it will trigger a mail to the individual, hey, this is the entry which is not yet accounted. I don't think we are yet there. But that is the journey we are in. Right now, we are in a journey where we are able to prepare all of this 400 accounts bank reconciliation through deployment of RPA. And since now it is technology driven, we do not have to prepare this once in a week. We are preparing 3 times in a week, which makes my accounting much more hygienic, much more clean, and we don't have any huge outstanding balance at the month end or at the quarter end. So there are a lot of areas, and these are small areas. Means I've detailed out some. I'm not going to get into each of the specific transaction, but my entire point is that you guys should look at into in your organization, in each of the area, what is currently manually done and which is more rule based. It is not so much of application of mind. So if you are reading a contract and you have to do a revenue accounting, you need to understand, hey, is there a multiple element? How do I recognize for that multiple element? There are lot more intelligence required, lot more judgment required. But some of the things which are more rule based can be easily automated by deployment of RP. So identify the areas in your areas or in your particular organization where a lot more manual effort is involved, and see, hey, how can we do this entire validation through system. So I'm not getting into each of the items, guys, but just this was more to give you a flavor of what all we have done by deploying tools and technologies. Now this is purely talking about in internal audit, how we have done and implemented technology. This particular thing says my entire audit function is now digitized. To ensure initiation of audit, to creating all the work paper, to creating a RCM, which is risk control metrics, everything is in a digitized workflow. So at any point of time, as a head of audit, you know what is the progress of the audit. Is something which is pending at what stage? It is pending with whom? Is it pending with the audit manager? It is pending with the auditee? What stage it is? Has the data come in, not come in? Everything is automated workflow. Second thing, what it helps, once the audit is done, every action is logged into this workflow. It has a automated trigger which is already configured based on the hierarchy of the system or of the organization, and at a regular interval, if the actions are not closed, it triggers a escalation to the individual who is responsible for the action, and at certain point of time it start going to his L1 and L2. So it makes the entire workflow more automated. There's no mail chain, no phone calls required. Everything is through real time. That makes the process so efficient that everyone is very transparent. Everyone has a visibility. At any point of view, you know where is your audit current status is. So that is what, and again, this is in-house tool developed team, which we have implemented. We have looked at external tools also, but we thought, hey, in-house tool is much better, and we went with a in-house tool. This again gives you a flavor of what are the technologies which we have adopted within the internal audit function. So Wipro Homes is Wipro platform, where we use that for continuous monitoring. So I'll give you some flavor as we go into the next couple of slides, what kind of rules which we monitor on a regular basis, leveraging Wipro Homes or IDEA. Data Mart is another amazing thing which we have done. When we started our journey, we said, hey, we should have 50% of our audit issue on day 0. What does it mean? That means I should have all the data with us. And since we have a data, before even going to an auditee, I can do the data analytics. I can identify what are the process gaps. I can identify what are the issues. So my entire time which I need to spend with the auditee on understanding him, doing a RCA to identifying why the process is broken, why something needs to be fixed, rather than wasting time on getting data. Because what we realized, we used to spend approx 50% of the time just getting the data. And I think, again, the earlier speaker said, it is not about data analysis. It is about getting the right data. And we realize many times we are going to auditee, we are seeking the data from them. He will send one version. Then we do all our analytics. We go back to them. He will say, no, that was wrong file I sent you. This is updated file. You should not refer to that file. And that back and forth used to take a lot of time. So we said, hey, we will create our data mart. What does it mean? We have created approx the critical 50-60 repository of common databases, which is required to do any audit. And just to give what kind of common database I'm referring to here, the entire purchase order dump, the entire vendor dump, the entire employee dump, the entire sales dump, the entire customer dump, everything is on a real time, on a monthly basis, gets stored in our server. And whenever we start an audit, We have our internal database, which we refer, and we can leverage to start at day zero. So our entire target is on day zero, I should have 50% of the audit issues before even interacting with the audit. And that's the reason we said, hey, it's not one tool. It has to be a basket of tools. Every tool will serve a different purpose, and different outcome will be delivered through different tools. I talked about this. I'll just give you some of the flavors of what are we looking at. Like when we said about some of the tools, like duplicate expenses, very easy, right? But earlier we used to take data dump, we used to run some VLOOKUP, we used to run some filters, and by the time we identified, we would have taken 10 days, 15 days, and it's half of the audit time is kind of. So now with this data dump with us, on day zero, running some of this algorithm, we know if there are duplicate expenses which has happened. And we can do a lot more data analytics around it to find, hey, is it a particular individual, at what level, particular geography, particular business, a lot of data analytics you can do. So when you're talking to the process owner, you're not talking about that $10,000 or that $100,000, but it's about larger process. How do you fix it? Second, it is helping us to look at the entire population now. We are no more a sample data, and because when you operate in 50 countries with some 200,000 employees, sample might not make sense because you might pick a sample for one country, the problem might be another country. You pick a particular set of population sample in one unit, problem might be another unit. So we said, hey, we will not do any audit which is sample based. Everything will be population based, and since the data is with us, it makes our life easier to do on a population based audit. That completely changed the perspective when we used to interact with the business guys, because before we used to go to the business team, they'll say, okay, this is a very small issue, you have looked at some 100 sample or 200 sample, but this is not the reality. But now when you talk, no, it is not about 500 samples or 1000 samples, I'm talking about the entire population. The discussion points are very, very different. And it also helps us to get insight into the process to understand, hey, what gaps are there in the process and how do we drive some of this process to get fixed. So very, very important. That is what we drove, saying, hey, let's create our data mart, leverage some of the tools. We have used IDEA, Wipro Homes. Again, guys, see, my point is tools are not important. There are a lot of tools in the marketplace. Some are a bit better here, some are a bit better there. Very, very important. How do you start the journey? How you start thinking, hey, day zero, can I have 30% of all my audit issues on day zero? Can I have 50% on in 6 months time? Once you start thinking in that direction, some of these pieces will come into place automatically. So that was, I just gave you some flavor of how we have adopted digital or technology in our functions, which is whether it's controllership or accounting or internal audit. Now I will give you some flavor of how we audit digital. So again, I'm not getting into detail of the slide, but the most important theme now, any audit, any function, any unit, any process we audit, one of the charter which we have now to say, hey, is the process really digitized or it is really automated? How much manual intervention current process is running? Because that is a key focus for the entire organization. We should not have any touch point which is a manual intervention. All the controls should be automated. The process should be automated. And as part of our audit, we comment or we review all the process to say, is the automation at 70% level, 60% level, and we benchmark those processes to say, to reach the world best class, what further is required to automate those processes and how we move from 50% or 60% automation to 98% automation. So it is a basic process of every audit which we do, saying what kind of investment the unit is making, what kind of effort unit is making to make digitization of the process or the functions they are running and to eliminate all the manual intervention. So that is one critical drive of all the audits which we do. Second, again, I've given you two use cases, guys, which we have done, and there are multiple use cases, but I thought I'll give you some flavor of two use cases which we have referred and we have used. So let me give you one. And again, you talked, I think you heard from the earlier speaker about the data mining. So this is similar thing which we call digital footprints. So in this exercise, we wanted to look at it, hey, are we paying salaries to all the employees who are really Wipro employees? It should not be that someone has quit Wipro, I'm paying him salary, or someone who has joined on XYZ date, which is 5th of April, but I'm paying his salary from 1st. Or someone who has quit Wipro on 3rd, but I paid his salary till 5th. So what did we do? Obviously, you cannot do an audit at 1,60,000 or 1,80,000 employee level to go through each of the individual records. So we basically created a digital footprint of all our employee. And if you look at, these are the data set which you got for every employee. Think here, physical access log. This was done before the COVID or pre-COVID. So obviously we kind of got their access log. Are they swiping in when they are getting into the office? Then we get their time and leave records. Because if you are a ghost employee, you might not be taking at all a leave. Their expense claim, their travel records. To identify if none of this exists for an employee, then it should be a deep raid, because it will be very hard to believe that no employee will take travel, he will not have expense claim, he will never take a leave, he has not access to any of our offices. That looks something funny. Similarly, we looked at his last location IP address, when did he last log into Wipro system. So all this is a digital footprint. So we created around, we almost got more than a couple of million data. And based on that data, then we said, hey, now let's identify where are the anomalies. So what did it did? It gave us a first set of anomalies. We identified there were 10,000 anomalies. Then we started applying a lot more filter. Finally, we were left with 500 employees where we have to go in-person interview with the manager, in-person interaction with the HR. So the entire digital footprint helped us to drive audit of this, which is absolutely not possible on the scale of Wipro size. And what we did along with it, we kind of coded it. So it's not that every time we have to rerun this entire we have to create the rules again, we have to rerun the rules again. The entire thing is now codified. So if you want to do this exercise on an annual basis or a 6-month basis, it's easier to do because many of the rules are now written. It is codified in the system. You have to just do a click of button and you can kind of get the data. So that was one big exercise which we did to look at into, hey, is there a ghost employee? Is a payroll is running fine at a scale of Wipro? The second example which I'll give you is where again digital footprint has helped us to look at is there any conflict of interest. We always try to find out is there any conflict of interest exists where my internal business team, it can be from finance, it can be from purchase organization, it can be the core business team where they are colluding with the vendors to see is there a conflict of interest. And obviously it is not possible to look manually to identify some of this conflict of interest. So what we did, we again looked at the entire digital footprint in terms of looking at the databases. We created databases of first and last name of internal employees, their family details, date of birth, and then we looked at external databases. And like external database is a vendor database, employee database, director database, and some of this database exists in the external world. Plus we did the social profiling and we identified is there a conflict exists. So that's where the technology helps. If you look at manually to do this audit, you can do an ECMAX sample. You cannot do at a population level. But since we are able to adopt technology, able to drive through technology this audit, we were able to do this through in a short span of time, I will say at a population level. And the second biggest advantage, guys, again, it is codified. It is not one-time exercise. If you want to run after 1 year the similar exercise, it's very much doable. And it will take much lesser time than what we took to do it the first time. This is another interesting topic since the earlier speaker talked about, hey, now we are no more only auditing data. Now, since bots are implemented by the business team or the process or the functions, as an internal audit, we need to also audit bots. And how do I audit bot? What do I look into audit when I have to audit a bot? So we have come out with a framework. This is not internal audit framework. This is Wipro framework. We said all the bots which we deploy has to comply with this tool. What does it say? It says it has to be explainable. It cannot be a black box. It has to be transparent. It has to be human first. It has to be a common sense, and it has to be a auditability, meaning it has to be an audit trail. And I'll get into some of this to give you guys flavor. What do we mean by each of that? So we said we will deploy this framework when we audit our bots which are deployed within the Wipro ecosystem. And this is some of this you can also leverage when you are auditing bots, because going forward, as more and more technology adoption happens on the business side, process side, we have to audit these bots. Because again, great example given by the earlier speaker about the California car, but there are multiple examples which we are seeing where bots are acting funny. Some are intentional, some are non-intentional. Without the person who developed bot thought it will behave that way. So it's all the more reason for internal audit to look at into, hey, is the bot working the way it is supposed to work? And I'll give you explanation of each of the points which I have spoke about here. So, like, what is the most important thing? And I think you heard again from the gentleman about the first speaker about the car or the police, what it did. But like today, I can give you an example. Suppose we have deployed a bot to look when a customer applies for a bank loan, and a bot runs to say whether a loan should be given to him or not. Now, that it seems very simple, but it's very, very important for us to understand and look into, is it biased? And how can it be biased? It can be biased based on the gender. It can be biased based on the race. It can be biased based on the multiple things which the individual has done, but that has nothing to do with based on which he was supposed to get a bank loan. So what you are supposed to do when you are supposed to get a bank loan, I should just know your credit score and your social security number is not attribute. Your biggest attribute should be credit score and whether you can repay the loan. But if you start applying other attributes and the bot start making judgment based on that, then you will become biased, and that is absolutely not okay, because that can potentially lead to lot more legal notices if you are working in US and all the European countries, because based on the gender bias, based on the color bias, you cannot decide how an organization is functioning. So that's the reason is very, very important. How do you ensure that there is explainability in what you have done? I talked about again, I'm not getting into each of the example, guys, but like today you look at it, I'll talk about the point 4, which is a bot which we have deployed within Wipro. Hey, how do you predict revenue? And when you predict a revenue for based on what it should look into, you should look into your order book, you should look into your pipeline, your logged in orders, and based on that, you should have a revenue projection. But if you start applying some of the other factors, like origin of the company, ownership structure of the company, that has nothing to do with your revenue forecast. It will make some of those as bias. And as soon as the biasness comes in, your entire bot is not functioning the way it is supposed to function. So it's very, very important that we apply certain framework. And this is the framework, like I said, we deploy in Wipro to ensure that all the bots are auditable and we are complied with the law of the land as we deploy bots either internally or for our customers. So guys, thank you. Param, this is what I have. I thought I'll share the slide, and if there are any questions at this moment of time, I'll be more than happy to answer those now, or I'll be more happy to give those answers at the end.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I guess we'll take the questions towards the end. You have rightly said, as the previous speaker also said, that identification of the data is more important in today's time than first knowing what we want to do, adopt technology for. And you told us about algorithm-driven analysis violation, how algorithm-driven analysis can, let us know about the violations and other duplications and everything. So we are very thankful to you for sharing with us, some of your insights from the Wipro Limited. So we are today feel very knowledgeable, enriched in knowledge by you letting us just getting a glimpse of that. We'll now invite the other speaker, C. Rajiv Gupta ji, who will be giving us his deliberation on the future of internal audit in AI and ML world. Rajiv Gupta ji is an author, he is a speaker and a leader in governance and risk management. He is currently working as a vice president and group head of internal audits in e-commerce industry Flipkart. Prior to this, he worked as chief internal auditor at Diageo India, head of internal controls for India and Southwest Asia at Coca-Cola, and assurance manager with PwC in India and London. He's a chartered accountant, certified fraud examiner, certified information systems auditor, certified in COBIT V5, and holds diploma in information systems audit from ICAI. He is the author of Technical Guide on Internal Audit of Beverage Industry, published by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India in December 2013. He is a guest speaker with the ICAI, ISACA, Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, Software Asset Management Strategy Europe, and National Academy for Direct Taxes. He has spoken on fraud prevention, fraud risk assessment, deep dive intelligence, financial statements, fraud, etc. at various international conferences. We welcome you, sir, believing that you're from a company whose the whole base is digital and technology. There would be no one better than you telling us how the AI and ML are going to affect us in the coming years to come. We welcome you, sir. You can begin with your deliberation.
Thank you so much, Param. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll just quickly share my screen.
Sure, sir.
Is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And thank you so much, Amit. I have gone through, I heard you for last 20-25 minutes. And believe me, every time, Amit, I hear you, I end up, I take home something new. I learn something new. And one of the biggest takeaway today, Amit, I have from your session is at the beginning of audit, your team is ready with almost 50% of the findings and the risk in that process. So that's a fantastic approach, Amit. Congratulations to you and your team.
Hey, thanks, Rajiv.
So with that, I will move to the last topic for the day. Very similar to what Amit and Anand, have shared with you, but I will go deeper into some aspects of the way the technology is changing the world. This picture is nothing new now, which is creating a lot of confusion between us and other species as well, which definitely means that the world is changing. It is not changing by our physical appearance only. It is changing for audit profession as well. The way we have been doing audits traditionally in the newer world, which is emerging, that will no longer be suitable. That may no longer be valid as an assurance approach. How the world is changing. I mean, this change has not started with COVID. This change started decades ago. And if you see this gentleman holding this big disk, this is actually only 10 MB, not GB or not TB. It is only 10 MB of hard disk in 1960s. And here's another comparison of how world is changing. I have done articleship, guys, during the days when floppy disk, the data from the client used to come in floppies. And many times I have made the mistake of putting the floppies into the computer in the wrong sequence, and hence the data never got loaded. So that was the pain me, and I'm sure many of you would have faced during late 90s or early 2000, when we used to rely heavily on floppies. And see the comparison, so many floppies being just totaling up to 132 MB versus the pen drives now you're carrying. So this picture is old. 122 GB is now old, actually. You are carrying TBs of data in pen drives with you. The phone on the right-hand side, which you see, is actually one phone which I owned in 2008 and 2009. It is a Motorola phone. Now it is in a museum, and it is only 10 years, So we are in 21, and I was owning this phone in 2009. So see the speed with which the world is changing. Mainframe came in 1946. From there, the developments were slow till early 2000, and then you see what happened. In 2004, Facebook came in. 2007, iPhone and Kindle came in. 2013, the smartwatches came in, and 2014, Internet of the Things, IoT came in, which is now changing the way we live. Actually, everything around us is now becoming smart. Whether it is about your air conditioner, whether it is about your refrigerator, whether it is about your anything which can be made electronic, it is being made electronic. If this is all which is changing around us, how that will impact the business? And you have already, you would have started, getting the feel of it. that head office culture, and these are guys, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, these are my views. Let me give a disclaimer first. These are not my company views. Yeah. So these are based on the research which I am doing and the deliberations which I am doing, for years on this topic. So so you can always have different view than me, and I'm happy to take those questions in half an hour, 45 minutes later. I strongly feel that the head office culture will go away. Many of you would have started seeing that. Many of my friends and colleagues, they are operating out of Goa these days. Yeah. And some of them are operating out of, hill stations, and some of them operating out of Jim Corbett these days. Why it is happening? Because now people have tasted the success of remote working. The only two things which are now becoming essential are laptop, good quality laptop, and good quality Wi-Fi. If you have these two things, you essentially don't need to be in office, and hence the cost of real estate and the concentration of traffic and all those things in metros, I'm 100% believer that that will change. 6 feet offices will become reality. Some of you have already started seeing it, and my belief is this will continue with us. Some of people, they will come back to office because they are craving for it, but there are many who would love to constructively use this time saved, the time saved from commuting between offices. They would love to continue using it either for their health or for their family time. Mega cities may decline, so that's my strong view, because people will adopt, more and more people will adopt workation type of culture. As I think Anand and Amit also shared, chatbots and robots, RPA, they will become a norm. Earlier, many used to feel that these chatbots, robots, they can only be afforded by the top class companies. But now, with many off-the-shelf application and the softwares available, you see that many websites they are integrating chatbots onto their websites. So that will become much more common as a ways of working. Potential regionalization of supply chain will happen. So what does that mean? Earlier, we used to believe only in economies of scale. So worldwide, the fundamental used to be that concentrate your production capacity to 1 or 2 mega sites. But COVID has shaken that belief, and now there are many global organizations which are thinking very strongly of how we can have our production capacities split across different regions, so that if one region is impacted, it doesn't impact the organization as a whole. So this is going to become much more prevalent from business continuity perspective. So that's how the world is going to change. Reliance on public transport may reduce. That's my view, because people with the decongestion of the metro cities, and with the electric cars and the smaller cars coming in, I'm of the belief that the reliance on public transport may reduce, and it may also be because of the hygiene issues. So that's something which may become part of our ways of working, with more and more reliance on technology to operate. How these technological changes will enable the man-machine partnership. So what I am seeing is whether it is robotics, IoT, 5G, cloud, all these things, all these newer technologies, they are gonna further strengthen the way our work is integrated, the way computers and the machines, they are integrated in our work, and hence more data is going to be generated. There is very common saying that data is new oil. And if you just reflect back, who is one of the biggest Indian company, which is that biggest Indian company, which is trying to play bigger role in data. It is Reliance. Yeah, Reliance is the one which used to believe in oil, and that company is now believing very strongly in data, and hence going very strongly through geo. That's a very strong case of how important data is going to be in the newer world, a world which is being dominated, which is going to be dominated by technology and robots. So if data is going to be the oil, then as Amit was sharing in his presentation, analytics of that data, continuous monitoring of that data is something which will become a standard ask of every company. And I am seeing that ask being made even from chartered accountants, auditors, whether statutory auditors or internal auditors, that how you can leverage this tons of data, terabytes and terabytes of data being available, how that can be used on real-time basis to understand the customer, to understand any fraudulent pattern, to understand where the opportunity lies, and so on. Robotics and artificial intelligence and machine learning, they will become very, very strong in audits and governance. And why I feel so? Because slowly the organizations means the audit committee and the senior leadership, they are becoming very demanding now, and they are asking the auditors that in addition to the detective controls, which you were performing through maybe Excel, maybe other standard tools, tons of tools which are available. So far, we were okay in performing detective analytics around it. But now, with huge amount of data available, now the expectation is moving towards how auditors can bring predictive and preventive analytics into the organization. And that is something which has to be streamlined between the three lines of defense. The first line, the operational management; second line, the internal controls of the governance team; the third line, which is the internal audit. So now the ask is going to become very, very strong, that how these three lines of defense going to work together to bring the power of predictive plus preventive plus detective analytics into the organization. And that is becoming much, much easier with the technological advancement happening these days. But now the audit committees and the management are becoming very strong, very firm in their expectation around automation of governance. If this is the direction in which the world is moving because of technology changes, then how the audit and governance will look like? I strongly believe that with the strong focus of the financial management, especially the CFOs and the controllership organization, the focus, the question which is going to be asked, to the auditors is how we can rationalize the cost of controls. And why I believe so, because see, in early 2000, when SOX and other regulatory frameworks came in, that's when all of a sudden, all the multinational and other big companies, they had to shoot up their cost of governance. There were hundreds of, key controls, non-key controls, IT controls, which were built into their risk and control models. It all of a sudden shot up the internal audit cost and the statutory audit cost of all the bigger organizations. And in that race, there were a lot of redundancies which were built into the control model of the organizations, which now they are realizing that there is huge scope to bring efficiencies into it. And hence now the finance leaders, they are going to become very, very strong in their ask for rationalizing the cost of controls. How we can reduce the audit cost for the controls defined 10, 15 years ago, and move that cost to the newer risk areas, which I will talk about in next slide. So to rationalize cost of control, we have already tasted in year 2020. We have already tasted various technologies which can help us as auditors in enabling it. One being virtual governance, and one very strong development happening is around the drones, because everything else we as auditors we were able to cover remotely. But one thing where we faced globally, we faced a challenge was the physical count, the inventory verification at the end of the quarter. That's something which we were not prepared as audit profession, when COVID hit us. And that is where a lot of consulting organizations, they have successfully tested using drones for physical verification of stocks and fixed assets in some specific industries. And I believe very strongly that this is something which is going to be their focus area for next 2 to 3 years, so that maximum number of industries are covered. And once drones can complement us in doing audits, I think virtual governance will become much more robust, followed by analytics, preventive controls, and exception reporting, which have already been touched by Anand and Amit in their presentation. So that's how the technologies, the newer technologies, will complement and will add value to the organization by rationalizing the cost of controls. So in your companies, with your clients, if this discussion has not yet started, believe me, very soon you will hear the CFOs and the controllership organization, talking about this with you. If this is how technology is changing the way we operate, what essentially then is going to be the internal audit scope in future? I think it will be around all the things which Industry 4.0 has enabled. And if you see this diagram, there is hardly anything which belongs to the traditional audit scope. So whether you talk about autonomous robots, we were never auditing those earlier. Whether you talk about augmented reality, we were never auditing them earlier. Whether you talk about additive manufacturing, which is those 3D printings, whether you talk about horizontal and vertical system integrations. So we were always, in the past, we were focused on few set of controls, few systems. So if for example, if a company is running on SAP or Oracle Financials or PeopleSoft, most of the times we were focused on the strengths and the weakness of those systems. But very rarely we focused on how that system is getting integrated horizontally and vertically with many other systems which different companies are using. And those systems can be related to IoT, it can be related to additive manufacturing, augmented reality. All these systems we were so far looking as a standalone. But with Industry 4.0, the integration is going to become so strong that the output of one system is going to be the input of another system. And then the output of the second system will become input of the third system. And this way, the entire chain will end up. So how strongly we are auditing, how strongly we are having an assurance around the automated controls within these systems and the integration is something which the audit committees and the senior leadership is going to question us. So that's my strong belief, that in case your organization is using one or more of these items from Industry 4.0, sooner you include that into your audit scope, better it is, because that's where the organizations are moving, and the leadership team, your stakeholders, would like you to give assurance on those areas. Another important development which I am seeing is the demand for data scientists. And earlier, the demand for data scientists used to be in creating in doing the operational data analytics, and in creating the recommendation systems for the business, whether it is Flipkart, Amazon, Target, and so on. So when you search for a product, so if you search for a product, then you would have seen that even whether you buy it or not, after that, whichever website you open, including Google, with the help of cookies, the system used to start recommending different models or the options to you in whichever website you open. So earlier, that was the job, or that was the major focus area for data scientists. But now the demand for data scientists in audit is going to increase significantly. As Amit also shared, currently what is happening, the advanced internal audit functions, they are now having a combination of chartered accountants plus data scientists to bring the required advanced data analytics. But what I'm seeing that in future, very soon, organizations are going to ask that we need those chartered accountants who also are data scientists. So the organizations will start integrating these requirements. Instead of saying, I need 2 people, 1 chartered accountant and 1 data scientist, they are going to say, I need all those auditors. I need only those auditors who are chartered accountant plus data scientists. I strongly believe that's where the world will be moving very soon. And what does this mean? Is it so easy to make all these changes? Whatever I have shared in last few minutes, are these changes so easy to make? The answer is no. Why? Because if you see the left side, with so much automation coming in, with so much changes happening around the people, the team's motivation and productivity initially will go for toss. Initially, they will be super confused. They will be super worried whether my job is at risk or not. So that will be one phase where the dip in performance will happen. Any company which will start this type of journey, or any internal audit function which will start this journey. So that's a must happen. You cannot escape it. You can only reduce the duration of this dip in performance by being very mindful of how you are communicating the impact of these changes on the employability of your team and on the future of your team. So that's something which is very softer, and the leadership aspect of how how the internal audit leaders will take care of the human part of their audit function, because only technology cannot run your function. Technology always will be a complementary thing. The function will always be run by the humans, by the chartered accountants, but they will always be complemented by the whichever advanced technology which is coming in. Hence, it becomes very important for the audit leader to help make the right communication to the team around it. Secondly, which is on the top, mid-top budget, I see that all of a sudden the demand for technology-driven or technology-led technology-led audit procedures will increase, which obviously will be over and above the historical cost which the audit function was incurring. So that alignment you would need to make at the beginning of the year with the finance leadership, that you need extra budget for all this automation to bring in, but that will happen only when you show the return on investment, how in next maybe 3 to 5 years, that incremental budget which is provided to you now, how that will lead to either more efficiency or more effectiveness in your audit. And as you know, again, I'm referring to Amit and Anand's presentation, as both of them shared, it will increase the scope with all these technological enhancement. They will increase the scope of your audit and the assurance which you are going to give to the board of directors and to the leadership team. The last point here is skills gap. So once you have taken care of the budget and the team's motivation, you have to plan out the upskilling of the team as well, because your team would have learned auditing in the older ways of, in the traditional avatar. But with your company adopting newer technologies, how to audit those, whether it is RPA, whether it is artificial intelligence, whether it is machine learning, whether it is chatbot, whatever it is, what is the right mechanism to give adequate assurance around the new world in which your company is operating? That upskilling will become very, very important. Many companies, they are designing their own e-learning programs around it. If they are not adequately available, there are many very low-cost e-learning programs available on the public forum as well. So I would, encourage all the audit leaders to plan it out upfront, and don't wait for that day to come when auditing that new technology becomes essential for you. So upskilling has to happen before that. So this is my last slide now. With all these changes, with all these investments, extra budget, audit, doing a lot of data analytics and all those things, how it will benefit the organization? Because that is a question that will be asked, when you go for extra budget, or when you talk about internal audit transformation. So I think three very strong benefits will come to any company. Number one, with the help of all this digitization, all the automation, firstly, you can enable the single source of truth for the organization. And why I'm saying, because I'm sure many of your clients may still be having their reportings, the month end or the quarter end reportings, especially happening to their groups, to the group organization on MS Excel. So even though they may be on SAP or Oracle Financial, whichever, probability is very high. They may still be doing the download at the end of the month in Excel, making some, month end or the quarter end adjustments, and then, consolidating it and sending to the group entity. And hence, when auditors perform the similar analysis, the outcome is different. And when the management has performed that analysis, the outcomes are different. But if you invest in these newer technologies and in big data as well, you and the organization, you all will have the single source of truth, and there will be much more synergies in the ways of working. So that's one big benefit which will come. Second is avoidance of assurance fatigue, audit fatigue. That's something which, especially the multinationals and the bigger Indian companies, they are facing, because now they are questioning, with a lot of audits being performed, sample testing especially being performed by internal auditors, statutory auditors, regulatory bodies, and all those. Many of them are questioning that, just like auditors, have they been hired also just to do audit throughout the year? The answer actually is no. Only auditors have been hired to do audit, and their time, the auditees' time, has to be managed in such a manner that they spend a portion of time on audit and remaining time on the purpose for which they have been hired. So we have to become mindful of that. and that is where all these automation is gonna really help you in doing virtual assurance, in doing a huge amount of analyzing humongous data instead of asking 25 or 40 samples. So that way the audit fatigue will be taken care. Lastly, rationalizing cost of controls. This is something which is very close to my heart because I have been part of controllership function years ago, and I know how much in finance leadership we love identifying areas where we can save cost. And there are many big companies in India and outside India where the way their risk and control model has been designed, there is huge amount of redundancy in there, which can be taken care through automation and through technology. So if it has not yet come to you from your clients and from your finance leadership, believe me, very soon you are going to be asked this question. So broadly, ladies and gentlemen, that was from my side. A lot of changes are happening on technology side and as well as on the physical world side. And that's why I would say keep distance, be safe. Thank you so much, and open for questions.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. I guess that was a wonderful deliberation. As you rightly said, that the CS tasks are not going to be limited to auditing the data, but we are going to be data scientists basically. And the main focus of the organizations coming in the coming years is to be rationalizing the cost of controls more than anything else. So we have thank you for your deliberation once again. We have 3-4 questions which I would like to ask Anand ji and Rajiv ji. Anand ji is traveling somewhere, so he'll not be able to join us right now. So the first question is, that's an open question. How blockchain is being used in finance function? Do we have any live cases?
For blockchain, I'm not the best person.
Anand ji, any use?
So, see, we have deployed blockchain in one of the solutions, which is, I think, Mr. Anand also talked about, which was related to vendor. So, with few of the vendors, which is our basically service provider who provide us specific people on a specific project, which are boutique firms. So, from their invoice perspective, we have created a blockchain solution where we are able to track their entire timesheet, billing, all of them together. So that's a solution which we have deployed. Obviously, now the technology is evolving and we are looking whether we can make it more from the pilot to a large scale. I don't think as a large scale deployment I can say, but yes, as of now the pilot looks pretty good because I think again like what Mr. Anand said, it will take away a lot of effort of a reconciliation. I mean, since the data is already reconciled, the effort of reconciliation will go and both the party will trust each other. So that's a journey which we have started. I'm hopeful that as we move forward, some of the vendor reconciliation issues today which we face should go away with the adoption of technology.
Yeah, so I guess blockchain is just the beginning, right? So we are just evolving into this technology and we are yet to learn a lot about this.
Yes.
So that's how we can put it. The next question is artificial intelligence. How much of it is useful in internal audits?
Maybe I can start, Amit, and please add. Huh? So artificial intelligence can be looked into from two angles, Param. One is AI and machine learning being used by the organization, right? So as an auditor, then how we can audit that. That's one very big area where many of us are not focusing right now, yeah, because we are treating it as a black box. That if computer is doing it, theek hi hoga, yeah. So because I am an auditor, so I am not an IT auditor. Hence, we presume that to be a sacrosanct system. That's one use of artificial intelligence. Second is within the audit function. See, within audit function, machine learning can be of big use, can be of very significant use, and that is where the predictive analytics. You would have seen in one of my slides. I said so far we were as a function, we were focusing only on detective controls, where we used to see, whether three-way match has failed or not, whether the GRN quantity, for example, whether it is more than the PO quantity. That was a detective control. Yeah. Now, with the help of machine learning, artificial intelligence and machine learning, we can feed in huge amount of data into the machine learning models and help business in predicting where the potential non-compliances, potential faults, whether it is from the vendor side or whether it is from the customer side, is going to happen. So both are very strong use cases, Paramjot. But I think, firstly, in terms of impact, my personal view is try to target the artificial intelligence being used by your company, the operations part of your company, because if the bias, which Amit was referring to, if the bias is there into that model, it will be impacting the way the company is operating. Yeah, which will be much bigger negative impact versus exploring artificial intelligence for internal audit per se. That's my view. Amit, please add.
No, Rajiv, I think you absolutely said the right thing, Prams. So I fully concur with Rajiv. We have to look from purely, if I have to answer it from internal audit perspective, I think what Rajiv said about one, auditing AI, and going forward, it will become a big thing because business will start adopting AI. And how do we audit AI? And that will be a big charter of internal audit function because the entire regulator will come behind you. And if you're working in a global environment, a lot of biasness which can come and which can expose you for many of the labor suits. Because any biasness, whether it's a recruitment process, whether it's your vendor empanelment process, I was talking about giving a loan as a process, any process which you execute for your client, and if you bring any biasness, it has a repercussion, which is a huge repercussion. It can be a reputation repercussion, it can be financial repercussion. So how do you audit that? Secondly, again, Rajiv talked about how we adopt some of the technology while we are doing the audit of some of the process. And classic example which we have leveraged in Wipro, today we look at expense claim. Again, today one can do the standard way of looking duplicate invoice. Some of these are very standard ones. Now, once you put artificial intelligence, it is based on the pattern, which again Rajiv was talking about. A particular individual, particular class of individual, particular geography, particular day. It doesn't sound okay. And that's what machine learning does. Once you start identifying those patterns, then it will start giving you an anomaly, saying, hey, this is not your normal, this is outside the normal pattern. And once you know such anomaly, then that is where you start leveraging some of the technology. It can be related to employee reimbursement, it can be related to your vendor payment, many of those areas where you start deploying the technology as part of your audit exercise. So that's the way I look at it as well.
So, what you both are saying is if we put artificial intelligence into the audit function, then again we'll have to audit again the artificial intelligence, whether it is working correctly or not. So it is better that the artificial intelligence be put in the organization and then we audit that, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And the next question is that because of nanotechnology, the world is shrinking in all fields. How about the accounting field? Any views on the nanotechnology part?
So I'm not sure if my colleagues have gone through the 2020 report of the World Economic Forum. It is freely available on Google. If you just type Future of Jobs report by World Economic Forum, you just Google it and you will find it. And what it says that accounting is one of the fastest degrowing job in the world, not only in India, in the world. And there is a reason for that. What robotic does? Robotic basically looks at that process which is standard. Anything which you do in the same way, exactly same way, attempt after attempt, that can be automated by robots. Now, just think about it. If feeding purchase order, or if creating purchase order is your job, now that is fixed. There is no human brain to be applied in there. Just think about it. Because you get everything written or clearly communicated from the requesting department. I need this much quantity. This is the shortlisted vendor. This is the rate already agreed by the procurement team. Yeah. There are X number of fields to be filled into the purchase order form in the system, whichever we are using. Now, there is no creativity in that. And hence, anyone doing this type of task that is sooner or later is going to be robotized. There is no conflict, or there is no difference of opinion in that. So accountancy again is standard operating procedures driven. Every company decides that if you are buying this type of asset, it will be 10-year depreciation. If it is this type of asset, this much depreciation. Everything is fixed. Because if it is not fixed, we as internal auditor will say, Baba, you are not doing right. So the accountant doesn't have any freedom, right? And hence, I feel accountancy sooner or later, the premium which it is carrying, it will not become zero. But the premium which it is carrying, that premium will reduce. Amit, please add.
No, Rajiv, I think you absolutely covered it. So there's absolutely right. So team, wherever there is a judgment required, where there is intelligence required, those roles will continue, which is repetitive in nature. And I can give you a classic example. And I think Rajiv talked about some of those, and I'll give you an example which we have kind of implemented in Wipro. So I'll give, like earlier, like I was telling you guys, we used to get invoices from 60 countries across the globe. What someone will do, someone will take that invoice, scan the invoice. Then it will come to someone else. Someone will look at that scanned invoice and then feed in the system. So there are two jobs. Someone is first scanning, which is in the local geography. And then at our end, which is, since you have tried to try mostly shared services in India, the guy is feeding the data from that scan system. Now you are saying, hey, none of this is required. Vendor, you have particular application, you please go and upload your invoice. As soon as you upload the invoice, there's a OCR which is built behind that. OCR is nothing but scanning the entire invoice and directly keying in my system. As it keys in my system, it also validates whether it's aligned with the PO number, it's aligned with the grain, and lot of validation which someone was manually doing is now eliminated. So you've sung the job. Similarly, when you look at it, BRS, what do you do BRS? You look at a debit, you look at a credit, you look at a bank statement and say, hey, both are matching or not. It's very simple. Ideally, all the system can do. At least system will do 90% of matching. Maybe you are still left with 10% where intervention is required. So I think absolutely what Rajiv said, wherever it is repetitive in nature and it's a rule based, it will get automated. And if it is not getting automated, it is just a question of time. If someone has not applied mind, that's the way we look. But more you start applying intelligence, and that is what accountants are expected, all of us, whether it's a controllership as a function, internal audit as a function, tax as a function, there is a judgment required. And that will continue. Actually, that will become more premium, like what Rajiv said.
Okay, thank you, Amit and Rajiv. Another question is that as a beginner, small and medium practitioner, what are the audit technological audit tools that we can begin to use, to adopt technology? As a beginner, what are the free sources that one can use to, use in the audit?
Amit, would you like to start, and I can add?
No, definitely. I see the team, like I was talking about one tool called IDEA. If you look at IDEA, independent license is not very expensive at all. It is not that you have to spend multiple lakhs or crores. It's pretty much, and that tool gives you huge data analytics capability. There are a lot of inbuilt rules in that. So that is one. There are many open source tools which are available currently on the internet or on the web, which are free to use. It's an open source tool base. One has to learn those tools, but it's absolutely tool costs are zero. So again, you don't need a lot of fancy tool team. There are a lot of tools which are available in the market, which are not very expensive. Start using it. Once you start using it, you see your journey, then you can decide, hey, what's the next journey and how do I adopt more technology? So don't get scared about a fancy planning. Don't worry that all the tools and technology can be only done by the big companies. Absolutely not. Like I think Rajiv was presenting his slide, and I really like this slide. What used to be a 132 MB data and so many floppy, the cost of technology has come down drastically, guys. And there are a lot of data which says what used to cost 1 GB of data and how does it cost now. The same is for all tools and technology. There are a lot of tools and technology, and lot of courses are available now free. And with the digital world now, which we are all working from anywhere, you can enroll yourself into many courses which are free or which have minimal charges on some of the Coursera or Academy, and many of our teams are doing the same. So my suggestion to this team will be use whatever is there in the market and not very expensive. So yeah, Raju, please go ahead.
Sure. Fully agreed, Amit, and I will just add to that. See, sometimes what happens, people get confused between which are data analytic tools and which are presentation tools, the visual tools. So data analytic tools are the ones which does all the dirty job of, millions and millions of line items, and the hundreds of, the columns which are there, which even you can't import into Excel. Yeah. See, Excel, I remember, used to be few lakh rows, and then it became 1 million, 10 lakh rows. But, the companies today, they don't have only 10 lakh, records. So that way, there are many tools which are data analytic tools which are available. And as Amit said, some are, licensed, but they are not very expensive. There are some which are free, open source, like R, Python, and so on. The only thing you have to be mindful is you have to learn the coding in there. Yeah. But there are a couple of other options in the data analytics itself, which does not require coding. One is Alteryx. It is licensed. Pricing is almost same as ACL and IDEA. So one is Alteryx, and second one, which I'm also evaluating right now, is Nime, which is very similar to Alteryx. So the beauty of Alteryx and Nime is you don't need to learn any coding. They are drag and drop. Yeah. So that's the beauty. So the learning curve, the amount of time it will take you to learn is very less in Alteryx and Nime. And this Nime is spelled as KNIME. Yeah. So this Nime is open source. It is free, and there is no programming you need to learn. Yeah. But all these which I just referred to, they are data analytics tools. Yeah. The output of that, to a great extent, will be in Excel or CSV file. To a great extent, you can still, write some coding in R and Python to create visualization also, but it is not very great. Yeah. The great visualizations comes through Tableau, Power BI, and, tools like that. So what they essentially do, the outcome of the data analytic tool is fed into these visualization tools. Yeah. Tableau, I love it in terms of the flexibility and the number of options it gives me, and in terms of ease of use. So that's what the Tableau is. You can have 1 year student version free, and after that it is chargeable. Power BI, I like as second best. It is I find it slightly more, slightly less user savvy. But the beauty is it comes as a package, Microsoft package, when you are a corporate user. So you don't need to buy Power BI separately. Microsoft, in many cases, is giving it as a bundle, along with the overall bundle license. So that way it is much more economical. And obviously easy to use, but the easier is Tableau. So, but these are two separate buckets. One is data analytics, second is visualization. Yeah.
Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you, Rajiv. I guess you both explained it really well. One last question to Mr. Rajiv. Sir, please name some of the e-learning platforms and courses available in the public domain.
So Amit, as rightly added, of course, I personally like, and I've been using, me and my daughter, we both are using, Coursera and Udemy. So these two we are ourselves using, but there are many now. There are many which are available. It's only that the particular training which you are going through, where you found it better. So some of the technology and data analytics related, those small learnings, I found really good quality ones available in Udemy, Coursera, and so on. But all are good. That's my belief, because there are so many high quality, data scientists and technology experts. They are putting a lot of efforts in building world class programs. And the only parameter we have to use, just like, when you use Flipkart and Amazon app, you look at the star rating against that product, right? Yeah. So whichever public, training platform you are using, just look at the star rating against that course. That's the barometer I am using. If it is 4.5 star out of 5, I tend to trust that, that trainer or professor. So it works for me. Amit,
No, Rajiv, you absolutely said that. I think all of us are doing the same now. And it's the best time, guys. It's the best time. We are all at home, front of the screen. We should use the maximum advantage of the situation. And frankly, with COVID, now we are seeing many of the courses which were not available online are also available online. So it makes life so easier for all of us to learn now.
Yeah, thank you guys. Before we conclude the seminar, I would just like a 2-minute quick summary from each of you to sum up the topic. Sum up the topic you've given us deliberations on. Amit, we would begin with you.
So Param, I'll only say, team, don't worry about it, where you are in the journey of technology adoption. Most important takeaway, which if you can take away after the session, start the journey. Doesn't matter big or small, but the journey you have to start. And like I said, identify the technology adoption journey by looking at each of the activity. Whenever you do an audit, don't look into big analytics, don't get worried about blockchain, don't get worried about AI. Just ask, is the process repetitive? If it is repetitive, why it is done manual? Why it cannot be automated? Ask very simple question. End of the day, I always used to tell my team, and I continue to tell my team, audit is nothing but common sense. Please apply your common sense. You don't need big technology, big adoption. So start the journey, start small. As you start getting your confidence, I'm sure you will start learning more tools and technology. So don't get scared about some of these words. There are a lot of buzzwords in the industry right now. We also use a lot of buzzwords, but end of the day, basic behind that is common sense. And start adopting and learning technology for you as an individual. Because if you don't learn, trust me, you will never be able to adopt or able to audit. So it has to start from you. So start learning technology and then start reviewing technology or auditing technology, whichever process you focus. That will be the summary, Param.
Thank you, Amit. I guess Nandaji had said this in the very beginning of the session कि मंजिल तो मिल ही जाएगी जरा भटक कर ही सही गुमराह तो वो है जो घर से निकले ही नहीं. So the same way you are saying that starting the journey is more essential than worrying about where this journey is going to take us. Rajiv, 2-minute summary from you, quick summary.
See, I have audited. I was the audit manager in that world where we were evaluated, years ago based on how bulky the audit report is. How many pages you have added, and which used to remind me of my, class 10 and class 12 exams, where my parents used to say, beta, fill more sheets, because many times that gives the impression that you know more. Yeah, you have learned a lot, you have studied a lot. So I have started my career, with that, where bigger the audit report, more the number of pages, better used to be your evaluation as an audit function. But now gone are those days, or I would say now those days are going away, because now what the companies are saying that we don't need best-in-class audit reports. They are saying we don't need best-in-class audit reports. We need internal auditors to partner with us in improving internal controls. Simple, as Amit said, no fancy words. This is the plain language they are talking about. And hence, the world is moving towards audit what matters. Don't audit everything. Don't report try to report everything, whether it is of 10 rupees or 10 crore rupees. Focus primarily on things which matters, things by which the company can go in the wrong direction, or can have, the business continuity challenge or the regulatory challenges, or can, bring cyber security risks and so on. So audit what matters is one thing. Second is, don't focus on releasing 30-page or 50-page audit report so that I report anything and everything. No, that's not what the companies are now asking. They are saying, help us improve controls environment, which means now is the time to also increase the amount of advisory role which we play in the companies, and where, by taking care of the conflict of interest part as well, how we can do the business partnering, with the companies. So these are no longer, the theoretical concepts. The companies are now expecting us, and, there are many audit functions which are working with the companies beyond audit. So they are helping in advisory, they are helping in business partnering as well. So that would be my summary on today's session.
Thank you once again, Rajiv. I guess if I put it in one line, both of what you said, Amit said, start your journey towards technology, and yours is audit what matters. Don't audit everything, audit what matters. So now I'd like to formally extend a vote of thanks to all the speakers today. We are privileged, honors to have you all here today, and I guess we have a lot to take back home. I guess we are already home, but we have a lot where we can take back and wonder upon how we are going to work with the technology, what we need to work upon, and how we can work upon. It's just the beginning. I guess we hope that we get a lot of learning from you time and again in our sessions. Both of you shared personal experiences from Flipkart and Wipro, which were really helpful with the viewers out here. We had around 425 viewers, somewhere around 425 viewers today. So, a lot of learning, a lot of people learned a lot of things from today. Thanks for enriching us. I would like to thank Nandaji for arranging such seminars on technology and internal audits, where we can learn more and more about how we can embrace technology. I would like to thank Aarti ma'am and the technical team from the Internal Audit Standard Boards of ICAI. Thank you, everyone. I guess that is it for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, ISB, for inviting me. And thanks, Amit. It's always a pleasure to share a screen or a stage with you.
My pleasure always, Rajiv. Thanks, team. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.